I went to the state budget session this week, and this is what the form is going to look like that the county clerk has to send to all the taxpayers.
Right.
And you can see they're going to have your name up here, your taxes, and what you have to pay up or down. So,
Donna, put your mic up. They can hear better. There you go.
I like how you said down.
Down.
Yeah, because that could be a possibility.
yeah, but I thought this was interesting how they came up with that.
I'm hogging.
And I did find out that
There may be papers.
when the new law said that the county clerk could cap it, what that is, it gives him authority to cap it if we do not procedurally follow all the rules.
Right.
We don't
so-
get it published and stuff like that. And I guess there was a heck of a time last year because there is no remedy if you do not get it done. They don't have any remedy built in yet. So some people were capped because they didn't do it, the publication or the paper decided not to print that week or something like that.
Well, it's 8:02. Are we ready to begin?
We are.
No point in waiting.
Okay. All right, we're going to start this morning. You've got your schedule. We're going to start this morning with engineering. And major responsibilities, we've went over these with you before, and it dawned on me last night that for some reason I don't have GIS maintenance on here. And we've been that's one of our big issues. We've been building our GIS system up and have it ready and rolled it out to the public here in 2021. But when you say engineering, people sometimes think, okay, it's just the people that are doing the design work. But our engineering division of the Public Works Department, it has engineers and code enforcement. So we're doing the civil side of engineering plus all of the code enforcement work. So all of our building and zoning, all of the floodplain management, all of our planning functions, city planning is also in the engineering division. All of the environmental control, all of the building inspection stuff, stormwater management, all of the management of our public infrastructure, and all of the record keeping, the GIS kind of ties in with that. So we've got some good mapping going, and our maintenance staff is able to build upon that now. And then we also handle management of the wholesale water district. Remember, that is the group that has 4 cities, Newton, North Newton, Halstead, and Sedgwick. And then we are the liaison to multiple different state and federal agencies on behalf of the city. The layout on numbers this year, we have, in these numbers, we have included, there's 10 employees here. There's 1 additional that we have plugged in because you have said you'd like us to do more with environmental control. And so we have a second environmental control officer here in the numbers that you see today. The other increase that we had that was major is we added some additional dollars to demolition because all of the cleanup that we're doing, we are exceeding budget on demolition of structures and things.
And I want to correct something that I did last time. I had gave you a little report on what the expenditures were that admin raised up, went up. And I had put in the environmental inspector as 60% of general, and it's only 30% of general. So it went from like 45,000 to 19,000 that comes out of this portion. That was my fault.
Yeah, all of the, actually, every one of the positions in engineering has a percentage of their salary that's paid out of the utilities, whether that's sanitation, water, or sewer. So, because we serve all of those departments. Engineering is a service department to the other, or division to the other divisions and departments in the city, as well as the public in general. Okay,
And
next
that
slide, please.
That comes at a savings, actually, because each of those utilities doesn't have to have one of those individual positions.
Correct.
By sharing it across those.
And I think
R&D
that's
amount.
pretty typical for other cities. They spread a lot of their salaries to those utilities. And it's not just engineering, as you'll hear as we go on. There's multiple other positions, Kelly's position, Donna's position, Denise, multiple people are spread throughout.
And I did put a chart in it's blue striped, there you go, that shows the positions that are split and where they are split to.
And also of note, to your point, Commissioner Stennett, if we didn't have the service in-house, we would have to hire this work out to the private sector, which is typically 3 to 4 times the dollar amount per hour that we would pay. So it's not only a huge benefit to the community at large and to the divisions of the city, but it's also a huge cost savings for the city as a whole, as an organization.
Okay, Donna. All right, so I want to talk a little bit this morning because this is, we tend to, in the budget process, we talk about, what areas we're seeing that are increasing pricing. Today, I want to talk a bit about what we're seeing as far as workload and how that's increasing and how that's then going to impact other departments as we move forward. I have a couple of charts shown here, and the number of plats that we've had coming forward in the last several years, you'll notice the most we've had is 4 plats in a year, where somebody is actually platting ground, ready to move forward with development, or at least planning that in the upcoming years. We already have 4 plats in 2022 that have been through the system, and I have at least 2 more. Probably there could be a 3rd or a 4th that may be coming, because we tend to talk to folks when they're coming in early. They may be talking about concepts, laying things out. And then what that does is it ties in directly with what public improvements are going to spin off of those new plats, because typically somebody doesn't plat a piece of ground unless they're ready to develop. And what that does is then brings in new water, sewer, streets that need to be built. And so the other chart you see here shows the number of public improvement projects that we are seeing moving forward that are tied to these types of housing developments in a year. The most we've seen in the last 10 is 6 in 2017. Right now, we have 9 running, and I have 7 others that I know are going to come through before 2023. And I know I'm light. I believe there are more than that that are going to be rolling through. And so I want you to think about, typically people don't understand, okay, you people are working in an office up here, what are you doing? There is a lot of time spent with each one of these projects, because we may have another engineering firm that is doing, say, the water line or the sewer design. Those plans get submitted to us. We have to do a review on those, because typically we are running through right now 3 reviews per sets of plans, and it's even more for a plat. That we have staff that is having to go through and make sure that there are no mistakes, that we've got everything covered on a plat, make sure we have the utility easements in place, make sure, because if we don't, then we're going to have to go back later, and the public is going to have to purchase an easement from somebody if it's not taken care of in the plat itself. As we go through engineering plans, we got to make sure that everything is built appropriately, and before they can build, we review the plans, we have to sign off on paperwork. There's a myriad of things that have to be approved through the state of Kansas. So that gets sent to them. And right now, there's a big backlog there. You're looking at anywhere from 45 days to 90 days on a review at the state level. And so we're trying to make sure we're keeping everything moving here, but when we have this many more projects than we normally are seeing, it's getting a little bit where we don't want to make mistakes, but we're getting a little overwhelmed. You have people that are doing in our group. Zach is doing community development. He's out looking for people that are going to come and build. Once he finds somebody, and I'm working with him in the front end, then he hands off. We go through the platting process, then we go through the engineering design process. So where community development and recruitment ends, then engineering takes a hold and we move forward with the project. The thing that I'm also seeing is at the state level and at the engineering consulting firms, they are no different than us, where they are bringing in young people. And these people maybe don't have all the experience. And so the first set of plans that we see may have a lot of mistakes. And it is taking longer to review, longer lists of comments back. And the state, when you have new people in their positions, they are really down to, okay, well, this is what the line says in the regs, where it may be interpreted incorrectly or not as it had in the past. And so there's a lot of back and forth. We have a C-CLIP project that we are going through right now that I have never seen the back and forth and how long it's taken before on any project that I've dealt with the state of Kansas before. And it's because they have new people, they're training them up, and we just happen to be the first city that was sending something in. So the time element here is large. The next thing that I want to make comment to, at the same time, we're looking at those public improvement projects that are tied to housing. We also have capital improvement projects. And there is quite a number of these. You can see the biggest year we've had in the last 10, we had 11 projects running at once in 2012. This year, here's the list that we've got on the table, and there's more on our project list that may be early design, but we're juggling a lot of jobs at once. And there's others that are going to be shown on here and that Donna is including as we started laying out capital improvement program and how that's going to impact debt service moving forward. Every one of these, they're not all the same size by any means, but every one of these has specialty things that we're having to deal with, and different consultants, whether they're engineers or they're architects or it's geotechnical pieces. A lot of extra time is being spent on a lot of these. And the next slide I want to point out, this shows engineering services fees. So let's look first at the graph up in the top right-hand corner. Typically, in years past, what you see is we go back and forth from year to year. We may have more housing projects and public improvement projects that are associated with that are, say, special assessment jobs. And then the next year, we'll have more capital jobs. It tends to go back and forth, and what we do is we focus our time. We make the development for the housing things #1 priority, and then we'll swing back to the CIP stuff as we can, because there's no way you can do it all at once. If you are a person who likes to have your desk clean at the end of the day and have everything done and checked out the boxes, do not come work in our office. That's just not how it works. And anybody that we've recruited from the private sector, that is something they have to overcome in the beginning, because that's just, you have to always have things open. Capital project cost savings, we've tracked this for years. When we have a capital project that typically we might hire a consultant to do either the inspection or the design on, but we're able to do it in-house because we have time. We try to juggle our time. So if we have time to do the design work and do some of the stuff up front ourselves, we do that. And here's the cost savings that you're seeing to the city. In 2021, that number was, a little over 130,000. Then look at the bigger chart down on the bottom left. This is engineering service fees. So with every one of these public improvement projects that has special assessments associated with it, there is a fee for this engineering review, because if they're having a consultant do the design, we're having to spend time review that. And that benefits the developer who is putting in the improvement project. And there's a fee associated with that. If we're going to do the design ourselves, there's a fee associated with that. When it is not something that benefits the entire public, but it only benefits a smaller development, there is a fee that we charge. We've charged that forevermore, and all cities do it. And you'll notice there is definitely an up and down in this area. The last 2 years, I attribute it to the pandemic. We haven't seen much of that. And remember, in 2008, which isn't shown on this chart, but we had a downturn in the economy. And so we saw not many things coming in from a development perspective. We peaked a little in 2017, but this year, in 2022, I'm expecting that we will have engineering service fees coming in between $250,000 and $290,000. That's because of all those projects I told you. We already have 9 in the hopper, 7 more, and so we're able to do a little bit of estimation. That comes into the general fund on one of those revenue line items. And when I first started work here, we saw stuff around 150,000. You could estimate you might have around 50 as an average over time. It's been very up and down in the last 10 years. And I assume that's because of economy, and then you throw a pandemic in, and that just gets it a little bit off. But I just want you to see that we are tying that into our revenue estimation, where we're seeing where we're going to fall overall with the city. But every time that we say to any kind of a new development, okay, you don't have to pay permit fees, or you don't have to pay, we're going to pay for some piece of it, that takes this number and it could decrease it. And that's why Donna has been saying, let's take those funds from economic development and let's tie it in and put it back into the general fund, because this is a revenue stream for the general fund.
And this year, we have 25,000 budgeted, so this would be a boon to us.
So this will be a bigger amount coming into our
So do you think you're going to realize that 250, 290 all in 22, or is that, you said we got 9
It'll be
on deck and 7 in the hopper? Is that spread across both years?
No, that's 2022.
That was 2023.
There will be a little bit more, I think, into 2023. You just don't know at this stage of the year exactly what you're going to end up with.
Right.
And it also goes back to, remember, if the state's taken 60, 90, 100 days to review something, they can't start
That's true.
till that's done
And
too.
that
so
may
carry some of it over to 23.
Okay, so what are some of our budgetary changes and challenges? Training new staff. We have several new staff in our office, and so not unlike the private sector and the state, we're trying to do training as we go. We have this new stormwater NPDES permit, and the compliance on it, it ratchets up over time. Each year, we have more items that we have to do to reach our compliance and gain the points for that. And so we're trying to keep up with that because you can't have a redo. It is estimated every year. And then with all of the development, we have increases, and that's definitely, we're having to juggle time a lot better. Next slide, please. 2021 accomplishments. We had 13 single-family homes that, and an overall roughly $164,000 in building permit fees. This is for building permits, not engineering services, that had a valuation of approximately $15 million. We also started an update to the zoning code and subdivision regulations, which have not been updated for, I'd say, near 20 years, and we're needing that desperately. That's going to be coming to the Planning Commission soon. We had approximately 896 environmental control cases and 88 sidewalk cases. We'll see that in a minute too in some of our metrics. The bulky item stickering program, of course, our office also gets involved with that because of the tie with environmental control. And so they are working closely with each other when our environmental inspector is seeing things that need to be ticketed. He can do that as well. We got the pool project moving. The other big thing is we were able to negotiate the new location for park maintenance with KDOT, and I think that's going to be a big deal for us. We are still waiting for them to finish their construction, and then it'll be towards the end of the year, I'm saying probably January, and we'll talk about that bit in park maintenance, that they'll get moved. And then we had a very long planning process, I'm sure you recall, with pre-stressed concrete and getting their plat completed, a lot of negotiations with them and North Newton. And then we filled all of our open engineering positions in 2021. What are our objectives this year? Many are the same. One big thing that I am watching is our post-perfection agreement between the member cities of the wholesale water district, because this year we are perfecting all of those wholesale water district wells. And that means we are having to pump quite a bit. Then we have to have a new agreement in place, and I'm working with the district attorney because I also serve as the general manager of the wholesale water district in addition to my other duties here. And that member city agreement is going to be very important moving forward. As we go in to the future, water is going to be the most important thing that we're dealing with and how that's consumed and used. And that member city agreement is something that we're trying to get all the details on. I think we have it almost done. It'll go to the board at their next meeting. They've looked at it for the last year. We've been tweaking all of the details on it, and then it will be presented to you as the governing body and to all of the other governing bodies of those member cities. Finishing subdivision regs, and we have some updates to our trades codes, and then we've got stormwater permit compliance, and then of course the big issue we're juggling now is housing development and infrastructure improvements, and then the CIP list that is large. In 2023, the goals and objectives are quite similar. One thing I want to make a big point about is this training and preparing newer staff for increases to development. We're also looking at a public works accreditation policy, and what that helps us do is we're able to review our individual policies citywide, and it does a peer check with us, as well as helps us significantly when we're looking at succession planning, because there are several of us in this office that are going to be retiring here in a few years. And when you have to go through all of the policies and update them and update the codes and the regulations, that helps our newer staff understand all the pieces of how the city works and what they need to know to be able to take over the reins. And so that's kind of a big thing that we're working on as we have time amongst all of the projects that are moving forward. We will also be helping park maintenance get everything worked out for their new building, and the water tank project is #1 on keeping it moving in this next year. Measures and metrics that we have, laid out, and you've seen some of these before. This is environmental control and all of the inspections that is done by that staff person and the letters that go out, all of the nuisance reports. Remember that when you see the 24% is the big item there, includes any kind of a nuisance, could be brush piles, car parts, construction debris, containers, household items, all kinds of things get lumped into that one. We don't track it individually. I think that one thing that has really helped the whole environmental control program is bringing in the tree trimming program. I think that has been excellent for us and for our citizens, and I would recommend we continue that. And as far as sidewalks go, we had 88 sidewalk cases that were moved through the process in 2021. And with that, I would ask if you have any questions about engineering.
Have you done any preliminary layouts for the new Parks building there on 12th Street about what kind of changes we need to make and what that's going to look like, since that's right around the corner?
It's around the corner. We don't have not formally, but we have been talking about it internally and looking at the spaces. I think we're going to have to do we're going to have to do some construction in one of the buildings, one of the outbuildings, to be able to have some space, because the restrooms and things don't meet ADA compliance, and I know we're going to have to anytime you change anything, then you have to bring it up to the ADA code. And I think there'll be some changes in that main building, and then probably an inner structure that'll be built in one of those buildings outside.
Any costs associated with that? Are we going to be able to just take that out of any reserve funds, or what are you thinking?
We're going to have some reserve funds, and we've also plugged some money into the park maintenance budget that you'll see here in a minute, that we're wanting to have that available to do some of those changes.
Good.
Because definitely this project is going to come out as significantly less expensive than if we had to build a new building, but we do need to put some money to it to be able to make the changes that are needed for us to be operationally functional in the new building.
And you think the new building will be this is a long-term, obviously, if we were building a new building, we're looking at the
For
next
park,
50 years
yes.
or something, but for them, yeah, same.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
good.
Okay, I want to keep rolling so that I don't know about where we are on time, but I don't want to mess us up. So if you don't have other questions, we'll roll into IT, okay? IT and building maintenance, I believe, is next on the schedule. So responsibilities here, major responsibilities is to manage technology and infrastructure and to manage contractual partners. We do have a company, Imagine IT, that helps us with managing our IT pieces. And remember, when we talk about IT, it's not just computers, but we're looking at all kinds of pieces. We're looking at phones. We're looking at, there are still people that have pagers. There are all kinds of digital just products that we are having to make sure that we are staying on top of. And we have the number of devices that we're working on here, and we'll show you that in a minute.
Are you saying they still make pagers?
Honestly, they do. We do still have pagers, believe it or not.
They do.
And Brenda Turnus, our IT director, is here too, in case you have a lot of detailed questions. This area, as we are trying to do more without adding staff, we are increasing the use of technology. And you will notice here in the IT budget that we are having to go up a bit. We're wanting to add a person in this area because the number of devices and the number of things that are needed that need to have some immediate attention is escalating as we have more devices that are used. And if we have a call-in, there's multiple people that are calling in needing things taken care of, we need to have another person here on site to be able to help with that. We also have some replacements that are needing to be done, a lot of large item replacements as far as switches and servers and things that are going to increase our equipment reserve costs. And the thing that I think is quite staggering is when you look at the amount of software, we have more software that's coming into play for what is used citywide. As we are trying to do without an additional half a person here or a full person here, we're able to utilize technology to help with that. But there's a cost to that, and we have to be able to bring that software in. And not just being able to do without. additional staff, but also trying to comply with a lot of the additional requirements, whether it's from the state or from the feds, or trying to be accountable to the public. You know, police has additional software that they're having to add in. We are changing up our software for finance, and then the big issue is the multi-factor authentication for cybersecurity. And there's a big cost that's coming forward with that, and we are in the middle of getting us up to date on that issue, so that anytime that I have to log into anything, any device, I'm going to also have to be able to log in from a phone as well. And I'm going to have an app that requires that, gives me a number, and I can switch in. And that's not just me, that's everybody is going to have to be able to do that. And that keeps us safe from cyber bullies and hackers that are trying to get into our system. They don't really care about my information about building projects, but they really care about the numbers and being able to see and pull away dollars through Donna's area. Next slide, please, Donna. I've kind of went over some of this software, in-house staff needs, MFA. Lead time on ordering parts is a big deal, and so we're really doing a juggling act, trying to decide how much stuff do we have sitting on the shelf versus how much do we just wait and order when we need it. But when a computer goes down, I mean, would be crippled without it, even though I laugh and tell Brenda a lot, I'm ready to go back to a Big Chief tablet. But it would take us lots longer to be able to accomplish the things that we're doing if we did not have our computers functioning well.
And that MFA, I will mention that we had to go to that. That is not
It's not
an option. Our cybersecurity insurance went from $10,000 a year to $40,000, and that was only because we said we were going to get on this. So if we don't, if we can even get it, it's starting to be where they're not even wanting to offer it. There's only a few players in the game right now.
Yeah, and one of the major offerers of two-factor authentication actually got hacked themselves, so. So, yeah, cyber's tough right now.
It is. And it's not just us, it's everybody that's having to do that. In 2021, we've got a list of multiple things that we have been able to accomplish in 2021. Some of this is with just Brenda doing this. The remainder, we have assistance from Imagine IT. I will make note to a couple of the things on this list. You notice a lot of upgrades, Interpol police software upgrade. We've got upgrades to Encode software with finance. So all of these upgrades to software, a lot of these are more effective and more cost effective. We also are trying to duplicate, so we have a belt and suspenders approach to receiving the internet connection into all of our city buildings, because that's pretty important. If you lose it, then you lose all kinds of abilities to communicate and to process, because we are functioning in the cloud in many respects today. The other thing I would point out, we also are adding iPads for our water department to increase their productivity in the field. And I talked a bit about engineering. Everything that you see in all of the public works departments, they start to tie together. And with our GIS and our water staff, they're able to utilize their iPads when they're looking for locations of lines. Instead of having paper maps, they can use that, and we're able to bring in more exact points where things are in the field, and be able to then attach data to a specific manhole or a specific line that's had problems. And it's a long process, but we're starting to get there, but it does take technology to help us through. In 2022, multiple planned projects here. We've got some permitting software upgrades. There's always infrastructure that's needing to be done, the firewalls and networking switches. They are important pieces, just like a dam and a bridge. You can't have the drainage flowing like you need it if you don't have those things in place. You can't stop it, you can't let it go. And those switches and those firewalls, they allow things to be stopped, and they allow information to flow through. So it's the IT piece, in my mind, I attribute it to dams and bridges in the IT world. Then you've got all kinds of audiovisual upgrades we're trying to do in our training facilities, remembering we're still trying to work from here, and not every one of our employees has a computer. So we bring people in and try and do training, but we do connect with people in other cities and around the state for trainings. And so we have to have our AV equipment functioning well. Mobile Data terminals is pretty important for our emergency services folks as well. And so there are new ones coming forward for fire, and the police is adding those as well.
So is this a 23 or is this a 22?
This is 2022, and it may bleed into 2023, right?
Because usually we have the 2023 plan.
Yeah, I think this is kind of, everything is, what we get done in
Pushed forward.
2022, then it's going to roll over to 2023, okay? Security systems, those are becoming increasingly more important too in today's world. Measures and metrics that you see here, this is just talking about number of tickets that we're seeing, service tickets that come through to our IT provider and across Brenda's desk. We're looking at approximately 1,900 of those in a year's time, and we close almost 100%, not quite, get closed as soon as they can. Of course, there are some that are a little bit trickier, and that takes a little bit longer to figure out what's happening, and we've had a few of those this year. Imagine, we have 353 user accounts. Remember, though, that doesn't mean that's how many people we have, but we have multiple accounts that maybe have to be established. Just think about, say, a stormwater hotline or different email accounts that we have to keep that are not just one individual person, but they're established for, help me with a,
Like even HVAC vendor support accounts that they dial in to help us with our HVAC controls.
so multiple things. It's not just 353 people, but multiple pieces that tie into the system. And the number of devices that Imagine IT is supporting is 198 devices. Those are some of our bigger items. And then Brenda has additional 248, but that's including hotspots, phones, iPads, different things. Our IT support consultant, they have expanded their hours a bit, but anything that's after hours is a higher price because they don't always have somebody on staff that's going to be there after hours. And remember, we function 24/7 here at the city. And so there are IT issues that go all the way around the clock. And so Brenda is available for that, which is another reason we need to have another person. And we need to be training up another individual as we move forward into the future. This is just too many devices, too many accounts for us to have just one person in-house handling that. Any questions on IT before I move to building maintenance? Okay. Building maintenance, major responsibilities. All the custodial services to the police department, city hall, and the service center are handled through building maintenance. They also take care of all preventative maintenance, and they troubleshoot and do a lot of install on our HVAC system at city-owned facilities. And that's specifically because our building maintenance supervisor, that is his specialty. He is one of the best in the region. And then any of the general building maintenance at our city-owned facilities, like the public library and the rec center, we have contracts to provide for the HVAC service there at those facilities. Dollars here has not went up much, but we have 5 employees included in 2023. We're looking at one additional position that would be partially funded by the county, and it's for airport needs. All those buildings out there were neglected for years, and we've talked about this for quite a while. And we've instituted this building maintenance CIP. Some of those things we hire a consultant for, other things is things we can do in-house, but we have to be able to buy the supplies to do it. And then when we have a contractor out there, we have to have somebody to oversee that. And the civil staff that we have here in engineering is pretty swamped, and so our building maintenance supervisor may get pulled away to oversee contractors that are doing some of the work, whether it's a roofing project, it's a painting project, or something on a hangar or any of the buildings that are at the airport. And this is a pretty good way to do it when we have some partnership in the funding. And remember, some of their positions are split amongst the utilities too. So when you look at 5 employees and look at personal services numbers, they're not getting paid, $1,000 a year. Some of that cost is spread to the utilities.
How did the building maintenance fund go down like it did?
We took out some of the golf course and the Meridian Center. They were in here, and we're trying to put those on themselves so they could take care of that and not be a burden here to the general fund.
And there's no personnel changes in building maintenance?
Just
Half a person out of general.
just that half, which is an additional person to the department or the division, but half is paid by the county, okay?
Well, it goes through the airport.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Next. Our big changes, or our challenges, I would say, is to track and log building maintenance costs and trying to get them stuck. We have just pulled out building maintenance from all the other budgets, and we're just trying to track it, just like we've done with IT, trying to see what is our cost for building maintenance. And of course, we have a backlog at the airport, and then the commodities pricing increases and the lag time on ordering things. It hits everybody everywhere. In 2021, we were able to get multiple items done. I've just listed some of the biggies here, but you'll notice what we consider biggies, and this, I'm always talking with our staff about what do you see as the biggies, always revolves around HVAC, because those are big projects, and we're able to do those in-house because we have a stellar employee in that area, and he's helping train somebody as well. They help with all kinds of things. Just look at replacing the drum screen boiler at the wastewater treatment plant. We'd have to hire a consultant to do that, which would be a cost to the sewer budget. But we're able to utilize our building maintenance staff to do that and just order the parts. And that's good for the city. 2022 and 2023 goals and objectives. Just like in other divisions, we have this giant list of things we want to get done, and what doesn't get done rolls over. So these kind of meld together. But we've got the airport building maintenance CIP that we're going to have to roll forward some more items there in 2023. And we've got some exhaust items at the NRC. I also have Gary helping with plan review on the new library to make sure that we're not going to build something from a mechanical standpoint that we don't think we can maintain. And so there's a lot of time spent in that as well, and I see that as a big project here this year. We're doing some carpet replacement. We've got HVAC changes at Fire Station 2. I know that they will get involved helping when we get moved over to the new park maintenance building. And the bottom items on the list here, replacing piping for City Hall chillers. We changed some piping, did some piping work here out on the back side of the building because we knew we were going to need that coming forward. And we ordered the second chiller that is needed for the building, and it has not come in. And fortunately, we had done the pipe work ahead of time, so you are able to sit here and feel comfortable in the environment. That will not be the case as it gets hotter, but we wouldn't be functioning if we had not made those piping changes. And that's kudos to our building maintenance staff. They're good people. Any questions there? Yeah.
I just want to say, Suzanne she mentioned it, but I can't tell you enough how much, not only the work that Gary and his staff do at the airport, but the projects that he oversees and makes sure that they're priced right. That doesn't show up in a budget other than it saves us money when we're doing projects. He understands that a roofer shows up and says, hey, that's a $100,000 roof. He can say, well, no, it's not. Let's do this again. And then all of a sudden it's a $20,000 roof. So he, not only doing the work himself, not only overseeing the work, but being able to be familiar with what's going on. I'm not an expert in any of that. And so for him to do that saves the airport, and I assume everywhere else in the city, a ton of money. And that goes uncalculated when we start putting budgets together. So I think it's very important that we understand that as well. We couldn't function without him.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Okay, next, we're going to keep rolling. Street maintenance is next. Street maintenance responsibilities, always pavement maintenance, traffic control. Traffic control has become a big deal, and it's going to increase in the future as we have more people in the town and more traffic, more development. That's going to be a bigger issue. Snow and ice, gravel road alley maintenance, community events. These are the guys that are setting up the fence, making sure we got barricades in place so that people are safe when we have an event out in the street or in a park. Street cleaning and stormwater facility maintenance. This budget has 17 employees in it, and the changes in cost or price or expenses that you see here is typically overall for street materials. Anytime fuel prices increase, then everything that street maintenance uses increases. All the emulsion, all of the fuel for vehicles, all of our asphalt costs, our concrete costs. That's the increases that you're seeing here.
Might tell them what the bottom is and why it went up, or a credit is bigger,
Huh?
the transfer.
The transfer item, where you're seeing transfer items and they're seen as a negative coming in to these general fund budgets, there is a transfer that comes from the sewer budget into this for storm sewer maintenance and storm sewer, because it's a sewer and it's paid for out of the sewer utility. And we keep a separate cost log in park and in street to be able to offset those costs with the sewer budget, because we are required to do we were required and we need to, certain items that we have to do for our MPDS permit, plus we have to make sure we have a requirement to sweep the streets X number of miles per year, all those things. That is a requirement of that stormwater permit. So the sewer budget does a transfer over for the actual costs, and we review that every couple of years, and we've had an increase. We actually increased it last year and this year, but we knew with fuel prices as they were rising was going to be an additional transfer needed.
I assume when we have rain events like we're having right now, you have increased labor in checking all the various locations for your stormwater runoff and all that.
Yes, and it's major spreadsheet tracking, but we have some new software in place, as we've talked about software, and that's helping us as well. And Kim Keyser, our street superintendent, is here, and he and his staff help track that, as well as make sure that we are out when all of that is going on. You bet. Okay. Operational and budgetary changes or challenges, commodity costs, that's the big issue here. As those prices rise and we have street miles are increasing as we move forward with new development, that's going to continue. You're going to continue to see that pattern. Material costs, concrete prices went up $7 per cubic yard in 2022. Asphalt costs went up $6 a ton. Steel prices increased, causing paving mat that we use, and any time we're doing concrete pavement, whether it's sidewalks or streets, went from $41 a sheet approximately to $82 a sheet this year. And we've got some other metrics and graphs that are going to show that.
Yeah, but inflation is only going up 8%. How can
Yeah.
that be? I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know you know. Yeah. Our major accomplishments in 2021 is we did a lot of concrete work in 2021. We did a lot of intersection repairs and utility cuts. We also were able to keep our slurry seal program rolling, and we've got a new truck coming that's set up now, is upgraded for 2022. We did a lot of curb and gutter repair. We reconstructed a lot of streets and entrances to alleyways, just a lot of things that we did that were concrete related. And that's because we have a really good crew that does really good concrete work. And we're starting to see, for years and years and years before I got here, the city only was, well, actually it was very pre-me, there was a lot of asphalt streets. And then there was a surge of some concrete. Then we've done primarily concrete because the asphalt prices were pretty high, but concrete was staying steady. Now we see both of them rising. And so we bid a lot of options, and then we let the low price guide us as we go. But we're starting to see some of the concrete streets start to fail a bit, and then some of those early asphalt streets, that we're looking 30, 40 years ago, they didn't put much down. And so we see that stuff start to fail. They're only putting maybe 2 inches of asphalt down, and that is not going to last into time. And so we try and catch. Remember, we have this 6-area maintenance area. The city split into 6 areas, and we try and catch those as we come around for those areas. We may do 1 or 2 of those really thin layer streets. We get that done with our annual overlay. But all those costs are coming out of this street budget.
When you have asphalt and concrete, and they're the same price, same thickness, is concrete going to last longer?
That would be my opinion.
And so then you
If
choose.
if all prices were equal, I would build concrete.
Yeah, okay.
How long is the concrete streets?
How long will they last?
Yeah.
Well, it could be anywhere from 20 to 40 years, depending on the conditions, how the base was prepared, what happens underneath. I mean,
Yeah.
we hope for 40 years, but we don't get that much. And it depends on the rock that you ended up with. You spec certain things. There's a KDOT mix that we used, and you're going to see that on some of our CIP projects. There's a KDOT mix that was used, and I don't know what happened with it, but the state had troubles with it as well. And US 50, that's why you've seen US 50 between here and Emporia has been repaired multiple times. A lot of that's at joints, but I think that had to do with bad mix. That same mix was done on Spencer.
I was going to ask if that's what's wrong with Spencer.
And Spencer, we're going to have to do reconstruction on it, especially from First South.
Yeah, it's really.
First North, it's going to have to be done, but it's not something that's imminent. South is imminent, and we're going to have to start working on it. And that's the period that happened. And when KDOT did work to you got to think back in time, and I don't know if you were here at that time, in Newton on 135 is about 2002-ish.
No.
2001, 2002.
I wasn't even out of high school yet, Suzanne.
Okay, you're so young. So I-135 was going, it was underneath First and Broadway. First and Broadway went over. And they were some of the oldest interchanges in the state. And they did not meet any of the standards. Everything was falling apart. And so it all got redone, and the interstate flew over, and now First and Broadway have the roundabouts that go under. And at that time, when they were working on that, they had to have some kind of a detour for people to get through Newton. That detour was on Spencer. And so we said, okay, well, if we're going to detour state highway traffic or even a ton of local traffic, plus those that happen to know, we want you to help us pay for Spencer improvements. So the state helped us pay. Well, when the state helps you pay, you use their mix, and here we are. We're going to have to do some replacing on Spencer. So that's how we ended up there.
I was wondering, and I was going to ask the same question to what Leroy asked too, but like when we put the new parking lot in at the church, we went with concrete because, of course, it gets very little usage, but they said at least 50 years on the concrete there. And asphalt maintenance, it paid for itself after like 12 years. So even if we get 15 years out of the concrete, we're still about the same.
Yeah.
Between asphalt maintenance and.
But either one of them, they're only as good as the base. If the base isn't put in proper, then whatever you put on top is going to fall apart. Okay? All right, 2022 objectives. We've prepped and upgraded our slurry truck, and we're going to complete the Area 4 slurry seal operations and all concrete work for this maintenance area. We also have new attraction signage. We've been talking about this a bit, but there's
Love
a lot
them.
of these guys.
They're awesome.
So, yeah,
I've
we're
had
trying to get
out
those.
The out-of-town people mention how good our signing is without me even saying anything.
Oh, well, good.
And is there new ones being placed? I mean, I know we're replacing, but there's new ones going up too, right?
New locations?
New locations for the signs. Okay, so this is interesting because somebody told me, they're like, we've seen some new ones, and I was like, where at? And they pointed some of them out. I was like, I've never seen them there before. So you didn't see the old ones, that's the point.
Yeah.
Right.
The clouds.
Well, they
when-
blended
the
into
clouds,
the
just, they
I
blended
agree.
too
I was
well.
just- yeah.
The clouds were like a chameleon. They were blending.
Yeah.
You couldn't see them.
Okay.
These look super sharp.
They
and
do.
Oh,
we
they're
made
so
the-
good.
Suzanne's staff made these in-house.
Yeah.
put
And
them
Aaron
on there.
did the design work.
Aaron did
And I
the.
Her
love the-
kudos.
Good job, Aaron.
Yes.
I love the connection then with our black and gold colors. Like, I think that's so cool that those things mend. Yes.
And they made these at the South Kansas Avenue location there back in that
Yes.
east
uh-huh.
building.
New printer?
We just got new, and let's go back. I'm sorry, I'm taking you back a lot, but let's go back probably 22 years maybe, when we first put up those cloud signs, when we were getting ready to do those, when we started looking at the big park signs, when it says Centennial Park, they're really big. I started looking at the costs on those, and they were $650. And I said, all right, we were looking at how we were going to change. We had small sign making equipment, and we made street name signs and not a lot else. And so we looked at it, and Kim was a big part of that, determined where we could go forward. And Randy Jackson was the superintendent at the time, and we said, this is more cost effective. If we buy the equipment to make these signs in-house, we could make them significantly less, because the cost to do all the cloud signage was crazy high. So we said, when we get ready to replace and we're gonna do all this, we're gonna go ahead and buy the sign equipment. And we have used it for everything. The new banners that you see hanging on the bridges, that's made by our sign equipment. And these guys are getting good at it, and we just replaced that stuff, that sign equipment here recently.
Cool.
So it's a good deal for the city. Our maintenance staff is going to be preparing K-15 for upcoming preventative maintenance, a bunch of the C-CLIP projects. What we tried to do is we marry up our maintenance work with our capital projects. And so they may do some of the base work, or they may do some of the curb work. Then we bring a consultant in that's going to do a bunch of the laydown, so a bunch of the asphalt and concrete work. So They're doing a bunch of prep for that, and they're also, these guys are helping with, it's becoming more, you have to be more technologically savvy to run our signal system. These adaptive signals, they are changing with traffic. And so we've added more signals in with this Wheat Ridge project. I'm wanting to move forward. We've got to replace the signals downtown, and that is in our CIP, and I'm looking for some state safety dollars for that. So we're getting more and more, everything's getting more difficult and more techie, as you will, with signals.
I think the commissioners should have a budget they could push to change the light green whenever they're going somewhere.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that, because with new signals downtown, we've looked at this over the years, and I've probably had discussions with at least 3 other fire chiefs in the past. If we upgrade signals, will we have the ability? And they do have systems that have the ability. They pick up the flash in the siren, and they have buttons, and they're able to switch signals for them. We just have to decide, can we afford that piece to it? So we'll be looking at that as we look at signals.
The emergency vehicle preemptive system, it works off of an IR, or the newer updated versions are working off of GPS locations. So it has predictive algorithms on routes of travel based on previous routes of travel, and
Cool.
kind of learns where your vehicle goes. It's a little scary, but it would anticipate your arrival time at the intersection. So instead of making everything red, it would give the emergency vehicle a green light to keep traffic.
So with the GPS, are you saying the government would be watching the government?
Or Google or something.
Yeah,
Google might be the government, though.
yeah.
Yeah, actually, Kim and I, we've been talking a little bit about it, just to see what kind of money we're talking about, but very
Well,
preliminary.
are you saying, though, that the 5 commissioners' vehicles still wouldn't rise to the level of EMT or EMS in importance?
It depends on how you want to equip your vehicle.
How much work you're willing to do when you get the call. 2023, so we've got slurry seal moving forward for Area 5. That would be anything that was remaining. Focus on the maintenance area 6, because we may not get everything done. We are going to also review and update our snow and ice routes, because we have new development coming. Typically, remember, our snow and ice routes are on those major arterials that are running through the community. We do have areas, though, when you have an influx of people come into one location. Let's say, for instance, we know we have 400 employees that come to the airport. But maybe you say, well, but that doesn't have a lot of houses, and a bunch of people don't always use that. Well, they do use that to get to work. So we have added some pieces out there, but we may need to look at, as we have development come into the KLP, if there's going to be an influx of workers come to one location, or if you have an area where things really drift really bad. It's not going to be on residential streets. I don't want to give anybody that hope. We don't have the staff. We don't have the equipment to do that. It will be major arterials and maybe high traffic collectors, but we're going to do a review on that. We haven't done it for a while. Let's see, cost measures and cost metrics, just to give you a picture, and this changes, and we've talked about this in the past. Utility cut restoration, anytime a utility comes, tears up the street, our staff is the one that goes and repairs it. But not all utility cuts are created equal. So in years where you maybe see lower numbers, that could be a utility cut that spans a large space, and it may be very deep. There could be a lot of backfill. So numbers don't always tell all the story when you're looking at just the number of cuts. Curb and gutter repair, you see we were pretty high in 2021, as we discussed. Next slide is kind of the interesting one. We've been tracking this for quite a long time. You're seeing approximately, let's see, 10 years or so, a little over that on here. But concrete prices, everything's increasing, and in the last 10 years, the fast track concrete prices have increased by 20%. Just in the last year, 5.6% increase, and we're hearing we may have another increase on concrete. And the fast track stuff is what we use in a lot of places because we want to get it back open to traffic. And just to give you a feel for how much concrete we purchased in a year, that was a little over 1,600 cubic yards in 2021, which equates to over $200,000 out of that street maintenance budget.
Was that a KDOT project on the roundabout over at Broadway and I-35? Or was that the city?
No, that was our project on the inside.
Yeah. With votes that was doing it?
Yes,
Yeah.
And that one was paid for a portion out of street and a portion out of park, because the maintenance inside of the roundabout park handles.
And I think that's turned out really, really nice.
I like it a lot, and we're gonna try and do
Yeah.
First Street.
I
too,
love the
coming up.
plants and stuff. I mean, I don't drive around in circles, but it's really nice to look at. when
It
you
is,
drive by.
and it's gonna get better, hopefully.
If you see me driving around, just ignore me.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just Clint looking at the plants again.
It has been an area where we've had complaints and where we wanted to put a better face out for those that were visiting our community and those that are traveling in and out every day. That's kind of the entrance. And it's very difficult climate underneath the bridges, a lot of wind, a lot of hot, some shade. We didn't have all the water in. We now have irrigation systems in. We have only a smaller area to maintain with plants. The other is concrete. We're going to get to First Street, and we also want to get to Meridian at some point. The one at Meridian is enormous, and we have some interesting plans there that we'll bring to you.
Well, job well done to whoever did that. I mean, whoever designed it and laid it out. It looks really nice.
We all thank you. That was a group project. Yeah. All right. Next, Park and Cemetery. I think that's next, isn't it?
Yes,
Yep.
it is.
Okay, so major responsibilities for these guys. There's a lot of mowing and vegetation control, playground inspection, people forget about that, but because we're a public agency, we have some pretty strict inspection that we have to do on that playground equipment, because if somebody gets hurt, they're gonna blame us, but we make sure we do all the inspections. Our park staff also does snow and ice removal on public facilities, say City Hall, they do library, those kind of places. They do anything that's necessary on Sand Creek trails. Tree trimming and management in public parks, they are helping us oversee the tree trimming program. It's funded out of sanitation, and park staff is doing some of the inspection, and then we're helping with payments and oversight in the engineering office. So again, all of these divisions weave together. Flower bed planting and maintenance as another one of their responsibilities. The restrooms are all over in public parks, and that is a deal, cleaning those things, let me tell you. Spray park maintenance and operations, we've done some changes there, and that's gotten a little bit better, but it's always, it's something that there's always something happening and going wrong, and so we always have somebody watching that. And special event setup for these guys, we've given you the numbers here. They're looking at 32 community events and 104 private events in 2021. Sand Creek corridor maintenance there, and then stormwater facility maintenance. Those costs, again, when you look at the cost sheet, there's transfers that comes into that park budget in that area. And here's where you see a little bit of increase. We put $150,000 in for building improvements out of contractual services in the park budget. And that would be a one-time thing this year meaning 2023, for improvements at that park, at the park maintenance facility, the new one at KDOT. I say new to us. And then street materials and fuel, those are increases that you see in this budget as well. There's 10 employees, 10. Is that right? That's what I say. 10 employees coming out of park. That's 10 full-time. Then we bring in, our summer kids that are helping with issues there. And then cemetery, I'm going to go back and forth between park and cemetery because these two have two separate budgets, but the people all work together. We started a few years back starting to treat the cemetery as a giant park. And our park staff has been getting everything ready for Memorial Day. That is like the big, it's the Super Bowl of park maintenance, is getting ready for Memorial Day. So they've been working hard at that. And the responsibilities there at the cemetery, they're making sure everything looks nice, keeping it mowed and trimmed. There's also lot sales, grave prep, and funeral coordination. They work closely with Denise, who is helping with all of that. She handles the lot sales, and our staff helps us, people figure out where they want to be and what they want to purchase. Remember, tree trimming happens in the We do not have our contractor that's doing tree trimming do tree trimming in the cemetery. That is handled by our staff. They take tree maintenance very seriously. They like trees, people like trees. The shade is important in parks and cemeteries. Roadway maintenance comes out of that budget, and a cemetery headstone and mausoleum maintenance as well. When you look at the cemetery budget, the increase that you're seeing is in capital outlay. Since we're moving our park operations up to North 12th Street, we've got to put a small building out at Restlawn Cemetery on West US 50 because we need to be able to keep a backhoe out there. We don't want to have to truck it back and forth because when we have to dig a grave, we need to have that piece of equipment there. So we're looking at about a 24 by 30 building to put a backhoe in out there in 2023. And cemetery budget has 3 employees that are programmed in this. Challenges that we have in the budget, the request for entryway beautification of flower beds, everybody likes it, they all want to see it, but there's a cost to it. So those plantings and keeping it maintained, there's a cost. The other thing that you are going to see us and hear us continue to talk about, probably, I'm going to go back in time again, probably 20 plus years ago. At my time here at the city, we've had parks for a while, and then it switched out, and it was under somebody else's responsibility, then it's come back. And park playground replacement. We used to have those playgrounds every year. We'd have one playground programmed into the budget. Remember, we've got multiple playgrounds all around the city. And these playground costs, they're ranging anywhere from $150,000 up to maybe $220,000 for that playground equipment. And that was those costs are pretty much before the increase you've seen in commodities pricing, so I'm not sure where that's going to land. All of those things got up to snuff and replaced, and then we didn't have it coming in the budget. Now these things need to be replaced. What we are wanting to do is to treat each playground as if it was a piece of equipment, like we do our rolling stock in our municipal equipment reserve, and have a playground equipment reserve. And us put a little bit of money aside for that, so that we're not plugging into the budget, a $200,000 cost for a playground equipment each year. Now, $50,000 plugging in there isn't going to do it, but we want to start something and get it in there because we've got several that are going to come due, and when we do our inspections, the things that occur on the playground equipment, you'd be shocked at, and over time, it does deteriorate, and they do have to be replaced. So that's kind of a cost that you're going to see in a challenge. Commodities and fuel pricing, and then our staff is going to be helping in our C staff. Once the ball field improvements are done at Centennial, they are going to be seeding all of that. That's one of the costs, remember, that we took out of the capital project, and we're going to try and do all of that in-house. So that's going to be a big deal for us. And then relocation to the maintenance facility, that's going to take some time and thought, and so we'll be working on that through this year.
What is the greenery in this
Oh,
picture
yes,
here?
I thought somebody might ask that. This is Spring Lake ponds.
Algae removal?
It is, there's, and we had a lot of complaints about it, and so we went in and cleared some of it out. I will tell you, a bunch of it's back, but we get a lot of complaints on it, and it's just one of those things that happens in ponds. And some of the guys love doing it, some of them hate it. And it's a one-day little event, and they cleaned it out last year, and I thought that might be worth showing. We'll see. I don't know that we'll have to do it this year, maybe next year. But
We tried to go fishing there, but there was too much.
it is difficult, but
I didn't have any on above the water bait to use. So there was snakes that were sitting. There was so much they were just sitting on top of it.
yeah, you want to go in there
Yeah.
and pull that
So
out?
we tried to catch snakes with our lures instead.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Nope rope.
Yeah. Okay, 2021 accomplishments. We maintained our Tree City USA status for the 46th year. We kept up with mowing despite staff shortages. We lost one of our long-term park employees, and we had definitely 2021, in all of our divisions, we still were seeing people having to be off because of sickness from pandemic. We burned off Sand Creek throughout town. That's always a neat event to watch, but our park staff, along with fire, are busy that day. And they assisted with the new pool startup, and then the cost for the roundabout concrete came out of this park budget. In 2022, some of our major objectives are continuing to keep our parks in good order and continuing to work with all of our special event folks. The seating at Centennial, Broadway roundabout plantings. We wanted to get all the plantings in 2022 at Broadway after we did the concrete work. We're also changing out the logos on those big park signs. The park budget pays for that. Street maintenance makes the signs, and then Park and Street install. So again, group efforts. And then we did some work to the Broadway Court roundabout over by Meridian Center, and we want to get the plantings in there this year as well. In 2023, we're going to be moving our park facility. We want to maintain Tree City USA. We would like to get all the plans in place to start doing some playground structure replacements and finish up Centennial Ball Field. Remember, we're planting and seeding in the fall, but we're going to start, play will start in 2023. And there's going to be lots of things. There always is down to the end. When you're opening a new facility, that week before, you're planning in advance, and then the week before, it just takes everybody's time getting it ready because you want it to look nice. Then we want to start on Anderson Roundabout concrete over, obviously, at Anderson, and make sure then in 2023 we get plantings in at First Street. So we're just trying to get a plan laid out and kind of chip away at little items. We're going to be doing some cemetery improvements in 2023. I'm certain that we will be talking about that into the future. Then we look at park metrics. Staff planted 114 trees in 2021, and we take care of our trees in the city, and each year we spend roughly, I'd say, around 20 to 25,000. That goes up and down on tree maintenance, and then we're mowing over 17,000 acres in a year's time. And these guys take great care of those mowers in order to accomplish that. Next, please. Cemetery measures and metrics. Just so that you have a feel, in 2021, 89 full-size burials, 62 cremations. You can see the plots that were sold. And then look at the chart here from over the last 10 years, how many burials that we've done over time. And you see, I'm seeing a trend that's going up here, and I think we'll probably follow that into 2022. Obviously, population is decreasing, so we see more burials. Okay, any questions on that?
Do we own one of those remote-controlled lawnmowers?
I want to play
Yes,
with it.
we do. That,
I wanna
thank
run
you.
it.
I'm glad I put that in there. I forgot to mention it. We do. We got one of those. I saw one of those at a trade show. The guys had looked at it too, and that's nice because we don't have to put a person on these steep inclines to mow, and they don't tip. It's so dangerous.
How can you arrange a
Demo.
I want to go see it sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
Let me
let you
know.
know when we're doing something.
Let me know when
big.
and where. I'll be there.
All right, all right.
Put me on the list.
It is a huge safety factor, right?
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, those things are
I'm
awesome.
riding mowers.
I think it's a great,
A ponder like this.
Yeah.
always all get out.
We debated over this for a while because, they're not cheap, but it's well worth it, well worth it.
I think I'd want one for my house. I could sit in the air conditioning and look out my front window and mow.
Is that gas powered or is it electric?
You can get
I
those.
believe it's
Yeah.
gas,
Then they're
but
not real
I'm not 100% on
really?
that.
Yeah.
Hondu couldn't be here today. We have altered all of our hours this week because remember, Memorial Day, Super Bowl for parks. They switched hours around. They do 4 10-hour days, and they're off today so that they can do last-minute big prep on Friday. And I didn't want to make him come in for this. Okay, we good?
Yep.
Good.
Does anybody need a break before we move on to water and wastewater?
Can I get somebody any coffee or water or anything?
I'm good.
Okay,
Good.
water it is. Let's see. Let me get to my. Well,
Wastewater first.
wastewater's first? Mm-hmm.
That's what your slide said.
Oh, it does? Okay. Well, yeah, let's do wastewater. How about that then? wastewater. I have Ed Bonham here. He's our water wastewater superintendent. He's the brains of the bunch. He makes it all happen. So we've got water and wastewater here. Wastewater, remember, this slide is to remind me to tell you, remember stormwater. Stormwater functions come out of this budget, but they are two separate systems. Sanitary system is the dirty water. Stormwater, we always hope, is the clean water. But both of the maintenance of those systems is funded through the sanitary sewer utility. Some cities have a stormwater utility that pays for stormwater sewer maintenance and all drainage ways and all of that. Many years ago, actually, when I was first hired, the city was looking at stormwater utility. The city decided to do it differently and fund it out of the sewer utility. We can have a long discussion about that someday, but not today. So we have over 123 miles of sewer and approximately 2,500 manholes that we are maintaining. We have 8 sewer lift stations, and we operate our new, I still call it new, BNR wastewater treatment facility, and it's running very well thanks to our staff that does a good job out there. We have 3/4 miles of line of effluent, remember, because we're taking the discharge from the plant to the wetlands and to the golf course. Don't forget that. That is a really cool thing that our city does. And then the big item here is we are trying to meet and exceed state and local requirements and standards for wastewater. And you say exceed, why would we want to exceed? Because our goal is never to be right at the edge, because you can so easily fall under. And when you fall under with stuff like this, that's your big fines, and we don't want to be there. We try to provide a very high level of customer service and quick response. We have people that are on call all the time, because if somebody gets a sewer backup, and if it's a cause of a sewer main, we want to be there to open it up. A lot of times it's not, though, it's just the service line, but we can help our citizens figure that out. And then they have a part in the compliance of our stormwater permit. They also are the ones that are overseeing, there is an NPDES permit for the wastewater treatment plant, as well as the stormwater permit. So we have 2 different NPDES permits, because one's about point source, the actual pipe and the discharge that comes out of a pipe, and then there is the municipal storm sewer, which is non-point source. They're 2 different things. Okay, costs. We have 13.5 employees here, but a whole bunch of other salaries from the city. Part of Kelly, part of me, part of Donna, part of the city attorney, different people are funded. Some of the engineering staff are funded out of this budget. The big price increase that you see here, field equipment is a big item that we're seeing costs go up on. A lot of the parts and pieces, things that we have to buy at wastewater treatment plant, and we are going to be in 2023 replacing the centrifuge at the wastewater treatment plant, and that is a cost that you're going to see. It's a part of the municipal equipment reserve, but we have other pieces to that gets increased over time. What are our challenges there? Obtaining qualified staff for open positions. How many open ones we have right now, Ed? 3 in wastewater. It's not a glory position at all. And this is not Newton specific. It is statewide, it's nationwide. There's just less and less people that are going into technical applications. And so if you know somebody that's young and doesn't necessarily want to go to college, but they want to start working, you have them come talk to us, because we've started intern positions, and we've been relatively successful where we're bringing in maybe a high school kid that wants to start working, and we will train them up. We'll help them get certified. You get your certifications, and then you can work here, and this could be a career for you. So we've been successful at that piece, but we still have 3 open positions, and we need to get those full. Maintaining compliance with the changing regulations is always an issue. And then sewer lining projects and making sure we're cleaning out everything, and on top of any of our infrastructure improvements, while we have commodity price increases going on. We try to clean approximately, I'd say 25% of the system every year. Is that right?
We clean all 8 and smaller every year, 8 inch and smaller every year, and then 8 inch or 10 inch and larger every 3 years. That's our goal.
We'd like it to be more, but we just can't get to it with the number of staff. We'd have to have more people. That's it, okay. And we are seeing commodity prices on pipe. Pipe has went up, I would say 25 to 50% price increases on pipe costs. And you can't even get some of the PVC piping for, say, water, and we'll talk about this with water and wastewater. We've always bid options for PVC versus ductile, and right now ductile's easier to get than PVC, but it's a back and forth issue. Everything is difficult. 2021, major accomplishments here. We repaired the automatic generator transfer out of the wastewater treatment plant. We had some struggles there, but it's done. All of our preventative maintenance is important. If we aren't cleaning these lines, then we get backups, and we need to keep rolling on that. The influent flow meters at the wastewater treatment plant, that was a piece that was not done with the project, and so we took care of that and painted all the influent pipe. That's why when you go out to the wastewater treatment plant, you guys have been out there and you see it, it looks so clean because they keep it very nice, but you have to at a facility like that. This is not the job I would want, but we went through and scrubbed all the diffusers and checked for replacement needs in the biobasin. That's what they're doing in this picture here. Drained down that large biobasin. All that has to be scrubbed and cleaned, and you got to figure out what things we're going to have to replace. And I think we'll have some replacements coming in 2023, 2024. We also made a whole lot of Class A sludge, which is basically potting soil for the Centennial Ball Field project as a soil additive. And I'm working with the contractor. Construction's going to get started out there, and they're going to be able to layer that in and use that, which is going to make it really nice soil for growing grass out there. 2022 and beyond, we obviously have to continue all of our preventative maintenance on our collection system. We also need a storage building to go up out at the wastewater treatment plant. We took one down with the new project, and we cannot fit everything in the existing buildings because we eliminated one. So we're going to have to put another one up, but we're dealing with floodplain issues, working through that to try and get it up so that we have our equipment that is inside. We also want to add a paved and someday covered pad to assist with our Class A sludge. When it gets wet, then it makes it difficult to deal with, and we want to keep it dry. And if we can have a concrete pad, it's easier to mix. You don't pick up all the extra dirt. This is, and boy, Nathan would really hit me if he heard me say this, but this is like the ultimate grown-up playing mud pies here, because what they are doing is they are mixing this sludge.
Watch out, duck.
What?
Ed might throw something.
You might hit me. Yeah, but they're mixing them. We mix wood chips in with our sludge, and then it gets really heated. You can see in this picture, it heats up, and then it burns off all the bad stuff, and then we have a good product left. Again, we're still pilot project on this and only using it for a few city jobs, just to see how it's going to work, because that's kind of a big deal rolling that out.
There are communities up in Michigan, I think, that actually sell it all around the country, and that'd be great if we could.
They do. A few years ago, I went and looked at I was at an APWA conference up in Minneapolis, and they have a huge operation that does that. Now, we have less product than they do, and so using it on some city projects, that helps us because we want to get grass growing, but you also have to, there's a lot of paperwork involved with this process and state approvals, as anything.
There are also several large private zoos in the country that do this, and they label it, it's called zoo poo. If you ever want to Google it, look it up, but that's exactly what they do, and then they sell it. So.
Someday. Reduce I&I in the collection system. Definitely, we've had big pushes on this in the past, but this is always something that we're looking for. We can't have sump pumps, roof drains, those kind of things tied to the sanitary sewer system. We've talked about this before, but I always think it's worth mentioning. We can't have stormwater coming in directly to the sanitary sewer. It's against the law, and it also puts too much flow at the wastewater treatment plant during a rain event. We're already taking it in these clay lines throughout town that haven't been lined. And so we got to keep that reduced. We're preparing for the centrifuge replacement in 2023, and then we have the Allenbaugh lift station that needs to be upgraded. We got to keep those lift stations working. Measures and metrics. Definitely, we keep track of how many taps and repairs that we're doing every year, and we're looking at how many feet we cleaned. Just for instance, in 2021, we cleaned over 400,000 lineal feet of sewer line. And our metrics maybe, are, some of that is down slightly because we don't have the same amount of staff. And we get full up, we can see those numbers come back up, and we need to. Questions on wastewater before we roll to water? Okay. Major responsibilities of water. We've got we have about 159 miles of lines and almost 900 fire hydrants. We maintain and operate 14 city wells, and then the treatment plant, which we call Mission Plant. We also maintain the wells and the lines for the wholesale water district. They have an additional 6 wells. One of those is a battery well. We also do our own utility locates, which I think is one of the greatest things we do, because when you turn that over to a company, you're not 100% sure everything's getting marked right, and we have that historical knowledge of where those are located. This is very important here, that we are meeting and exceeding all of our local requirements and continuing to provide a high level of service to our customers. Cost increases here. We've got 15 and a half employees, plus again, other salaries are spread here. We are going to purchase more meters. We are seeing a lot of costs go up. Commodities, and this will be another, it's a theme, commodity and fuel price increases, plus the ability to gain the products that we need for meters specifically. We have to keep changing out meters. We try to get over 500 every year switched out. But if you don't switch out your meters, they slow down. And so it's not tracking correctly, and it's not showing how much somebody is really purchasing in water or using in water. And that's important for the utility, that we keep those functioning well.
Can I get one of those slow ones for my house?
Well, I don't know when yours was redone, but it might be. The operational challenges for the water utility. Again, staffing. I think we're full here right now, aren't we? One down? Okay. One down. We're always trying to get more people. I love the top picture, because we've told them, make sure you're taking pictures so we see what's going on and we can share that with people. And these guys were like, all right, here we are. Our pipe is aging, and so we have to do more repairs. That's going to continue to be the case as we move forward in time. But our biggest issue that we're dealing with now is the compliance inventory for the reduction of lead and copper, or lead in drinking water. And this act is several years old, but we now have been given a date that we have to be in compliance, and that is October of 2024. And what we're working on, we have a seasonal employee that's working here in the office with us now. We have to have a huge database of every one of our customers. So we have to have 75 entries, locations entered onto a spreadsheet that has multiple information about it. The year the house was built, the type of line, whether it's the service line or the piece of line that is our service. From our meter, we go to their service. And sometimes it goes across the street to the main. It has to know what type of main, what the main is made out of. And any lead that is on the service line is going to have to be replaced. We're going to be sending out surveys to citizens, asking them, do you know what your service line is made out of? And if it's made out of lead, it's going to have to be replaced. There are going to be multiple locations where we're going to have to go out and pothole and determine the type of line. The state is requiring it. We have to enter all this stuff into this gigantic spreadsheet and then upload it to the state system. And our deadline for having all of that met is October of 2024. And we are pushing now to get all of that done. We have been for years logging information as we go and change out meters. But with 7,500 customers, when you're changing out about 500 meters a year, you don't always get to the point where you know what type of line it is. We have a break. We have anything happen, we make sure that we log it. So this is quite a huge undertaking. And then at some point, we believe that the state's going to say, okay, now we know what you have. Now you have to go in and make sure that it gets replaced. So that is one of the big requirements that is coming down from the state, and it's for purpose, because you don't want to have lead coming out in your drinking water. As new development continues, that means we're going to have more tickets for locates. They're running about 2,800 of those that they're going out and servicing, marking out, where everybody hates it when you mark in your yard and you have flags, but that's necessary so that lines aren't getting broken. Pipe costs, that we're looking at 3 times more the cost on it. In 2021, one of our major accomplishments, we always have callbacks. So we had 366 after-hours callbacks. And people always ask, where do we call? Well, call 911. That is how we have it set up. You call 911, and they have the numbers to dispatch to for us to get our crews out. If you see a water leak, we want people calling that out. A big accomplishment that we did in 2021 was there's a line out at Mission Plant, the 24-inch line, and that line is where all the chemical injection comes in, and it tends to build up in that line, and it's big, and it's a big undertaking. And we don't want to do that when people are needing water, so they did it at nighttime. I love this picture because it shows these guys are always working and making sure that you have water coming out of the faucet at your house. We drained, cleaned, and inspected the hospital tower and the 12th Street tower. We try to do well rehab a few every year. That's ongoing. Changed out some impellers at the First Street booster, and then last year was 453 meters, and we got all the fire hydrants painted. In 2022 and beyond, what are we going to be doing? Replacing, repairing aging water lines all over town. That's always a deal. Continue our well rehab. Loop in dead-end lines. That is really important for disinfection, that we have things looped. And we have people, new developers will complain when they come in and we say, well, we need to pull this line this far, and then we're going to need to loop it in. There's costs that come into that, the cost to extend mains. But we have to be able to make sure that the full line is chlorinated all the time. When it's a dead-end line, it just sits there. That water gets stagnant. And so sometimes we'll go out and we'll be blowing off a hydrant. That's so we keep water flowing through to be able to keep it chlorinated. We've got roof replacements on well houses and the Mission pump building that are ongoing. Telemetry, that's the computer talk between wells and Mission Plant. We want to be able to keep that talk going because we are rotating what wells are being used. This year, we're using a lot of wholesale water district water because we're trying to get those perfected, which then means the wells for the district are forever more water that can be used by our 4 member cities. We need to improve the transmission lines between here and Mission Plant. They are old, and we're probably going to look at a lining project on one of those sometime here in the near future, and we've got it plugged into the CIP. We also are looking at what things are going to need to be upgraded at Mission Plant. We have not done any upgrades at Mission Plant probably for no major improvements for 25 years. We have to watch what's coming down from the state and the feds that are requiring us to have different types of operations in place. And so that's always something that we are paying attention to. As far as metrics here, we've already talked about meters replaced, water line repairs, that's always in flux. In 2021, we pumped over 646 million gallons through Mission Plant and treated that much water in a year's time. That's a big deal. And then again, our locates are done by our in-house locator. Any questions? If not, solid waste is next.
We're about 30 minutes ahead, so.
Okay.
Keep it up.
I know we got behind, and then I'm trying to keep us on
doing
track here.
Take a breath.
Okay. Solid waste. Major responsibilities here. This one is the one that I think commissioners always know the most about the sanitation fund, because we talk about it a lot and we get complaints and we get kudos. But our goal is always to provide friendly and efficient solid waste collection. We do once a week a trash collection for about 7,500 households, and then bulky item pickup as is requested or is found in the right-of-way, as you know, and we're trying to educate people as we go. We have 8 employees here plugged in for 2023. Remember, we've decreased and because we have stopped the recycling. So we have 8 now, and a percent of Various other salaries are spread through here as well. Somewhere, let me see where I put that. Well, let's keep going here. The changes to recycling, that is, we are answering a lot of questions on this. So that is one of the challenges that we're seeing. And of course, fuel prices, and those prices directly impact the cost of the poly carts that we provide to the customer. Now, we've got some more to roll into the rotation because of recycling, but we want to make sure that we've got enough money in the budget to be able to handle this. We continue educating on the bulky item stickering program, and that continues to be something that people don't quite understand. So we do a lot of one-on-one, because somebody gets a sticker, anybody that's setting stuff out there doesn't always know they need to call in for it. And Kelly sends out a lot of those statistics in her weekly memo that tells, we've had this many this week, and these are the people that called in and got it for $10, and those who didn't had a $20 fee.
And we try to do that just so you are aware that the program is not only functioning constantly, but being pretty successful on removing some of this junk in a much more timely manner.
In 2021, we dispensed about almost 3,300 free landfill coupons in 2021, and the cost of that to us is just under $26,000. So the average value of that coupon is a little over $12. We rented 243 roll-off dumpsters for revenues of about $34,500, and then issued 2,827 recycling violations. I think that free landfill coupon remains very popular in our community, and we instituted that when we quit doing the cleanup day. And there's purpose for that, because that allows the cleanup to go year-round. It doesn't overload the landfill, and it doesn't require our staff to go out and pick all that up. People can just take stuff when it's convenient for them. The bulky item stickering program, we started that in 2021, and we had 295 bulky item sticker notices that were left and the customer then called in and got it for the $10, which is the normal price, right? And then 133 of those were issued where somebody did not call in, and it was a $20 charge that went on their account, their utility bill account. What do you guys think? Are you hearing about that? Is that?
I mean, I haven't heard
haven't heard
anything
anything.
negative about it.
Okay,
So
that's good.
I think it's a good program to keep going.
Okay, good deal. Goals and objectives. Of course, we want to have a smooth transition to the private vendor recycling collection. And we're looking at maybe, we want to talk to you about this today, because I don't know where I put my notes on this, but when you look at our costs, if you look at the overall budget for sanitation, we talked about a reduction in fees. And I know people are asking about this. And if you look at the budget, remember, we don't do a utility bill price increase every year, but our expenses continue to go up every year. We have plugged into this budget, and the budget numbers that you see there are taking into account all of the reductions that we had, plus any increases. So both are in there. And you do see that we're slightly under what our budget was for last year. But in 2022, just to give you a feel, in 2022, our budget, we were roughly $180,000 under, right? Overall, when you look at revenues versus expenses. If we were to look at the 2023 budget, we would be roughly $53,000 under. If we wanted to give a price break to our customers of $1 per customer account, assuming the 7,500 customers, we'd be looking at roughly $90,000 decrease in revenues. And so the question at this point, that's going to keep us in the hole. We haven't done an increase for how many years with sanitation? I'd say 4.
before I got here. This is the
Oh, well,
dollar
then
was
more
the
than
first
that. So we
one
haven't
before.
done an increase
Yeah,
in
almost
the
5%.
sanitation rate. And the argument, of course, I mean, we can argue back and forth both ways, and I don't mean argue, but debate, right? I have heard from multiple different citizens. One argument obviously is, look, I've been recycling for years because I was required to, and we know there was a cost to that recycling, but I did it anyway. Then I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and keep recycling even when we made it voluntary because I believe that it's the right thing to do. And I don't want more to go into the landfill. And I had a long discussion yesterday with the lady and explained, okay, but you're not required to now, and if Nisley sends you a letter, you don't have to contract with them for recycling, it's not required. Well, I don't want it to go into the landfill. I said, well, here's the deal, there's not a market for as much of it as there was, and so we don't know how it's all gonna end up anyway, so you have to make the decision on that and how you wanna handle it. Well, am I gonna get a decrease in my bill because we were recycling and now we're not? But we've had the tipping fees for the recyclables now has went from $20 up to, what is it, 45 per ton, or 43? 43 per ton for trash, and that's still not a huge cost, but you add that in with commodity price increases, and then you look at the fact that we were operating a little under where our revenues were coming in. Do you want to, and I'm just asking, do we want to go ahead and do a decrease in that bill and run under, hoping that we come up with revenues? And I don't know where that's going to fall. It's hard to predict. The reason I asked the question, and I don't know that we need an answer today, but we're wanting to put a letter out to our customers. We didn't put a letter out because we talked about that, and remember Richie said Nisley needs to do that. Well, Nisley put a letter out to the customers, and it said in the letter, here's your cost to recycle, and the city's making us pay a 5% city fee, or what did they
It
call
says
it?
City of Newton fee.
City of Newton fee, which is the franchise fee.
That everybody pays. We even pay it ourselves. Like, we pay ourselves.
And so we're getting
some
calls about that.
Nasty calls about that.
I want to do a letter that would explain, here's what's happened with recycling. The county has obviously chose to shut down the recycling facility, and that's because the tipping fees for recyclables was going up to $198 a ton. Well, trash is less per ton for a tipping fee. But with those of you that want to continue recycling, we're giving you this option. And then if we send the letter out, if we're going to do a decrease, we would tell them at that point and say the letter comes from the city of Newton.
My opinion is no. We do know that gas costs more in those trucks. We don't pick it up unless there's gas running through the truck. So it's not like we can't avoid that cost. I'm not in favor of lowering it $1. Our trash bills are still cheaper or the same as any other private company coming in. And I think what we see is that you did not pay, customers are now paying more for recycling services when they have to go through the private contractor than when they were going through the city.
That's true.
So,
And in the letter, though, to explain that, the reason we're not going to decrease it is because of these commodity prices and list
Yeah.
them, and they're going up X amount, whatever, so that it's clear to the citizens why we're doing that.
We would also talk about the fact that we haven't had a price increase
Right.
for
Yeah.
several years.
Yeah.
The commissions in the past have foregone those requested price increases or the planned price increases that were actually there.
Yeah, because
They
we
were
have
already
a
planned.
resolution or an ordinance
Right.
in place that we're all laid out for every year to go into effect, and we have not done those. So
yeah,
we've been able to avoid.
I'm in
Okay,
favor
well,
of
we'll
just
move
doing it.
forward
Yeah.
with a letter that explains that. And I get it's after the fact, and some people aren't understanding. The lady I talked to yesterday said, look, I don't take the paper, and I'm not on social media, so I didn't know what was happening. And all of this just happened really fast for us to get something
I
out the
think,
door.
and I know we've talked about this before, there are those people that largely are disconnected, and that's okay. Kudos to her for not being on social media. But also, I think we have, there are people in every community that will refuse to understand.
Yeah.
And so,
Agreed.
Yeah.
We will try.
Okay,
Well, at some point, we have to,
Yeah.
realize
Try our
that
best.
we can give all the information and they're not going to accept it.
That's right.
So,
yeah. Okay, so then the last slide here just shows how we started recycling, changed from mandatory to voluntary in 2020, and that's when everything, of course, dropped off. And so you see the tonnage for recycling moves over to the trash side of things. And the thing that I want to remind everybody on the next slide is many communities have a problem with their trash collection service. And that's because they have multiple haulers and they can't ever get things on the right page. We have been very fortunate here in Newton that for many, many years, the city has been the collector of the trash. And that saves our streets. It allows us to be able to pick up for all these community events and at our parks and city facilities, and that is all rolled into this budget. We also are able to make changes because we have it in-house. We also are able to pull from this staff when we need to do snow and ice removal and we're needing other bodies to roll in to our workforce. So it has been a great, great thing that the city of Newton has kept this in-house, and I would hope we would continue to do that. And with that, I would stand for questions on all of this. If no questions, I think Donna programmed you in a break.
Yeah, we're a little ahead of time. The next one was Sand Creek, and he doesn't have to be here till 10:40, which, so we'll take a break, and then we'll probably do bond and interest, which is going to be really fun.
Let's do it.
B&O.
Yeah. Oh, my On the bond and interest fund.
But
Bond and interest, eh?
all the kids, they were hard on. Yes.
This is what we have going on right now for our revenues and our expenditures. It does include, if we hope we are going to bond late fall, what we have going on now. It could be around 7 million in bonds. And that will, we set it up so we could have a payment come out in 2023. So that's included in here. Our revenue that comes in our bond and interest fund, of course, is property tax mill levy, which is currently at 10.071. If you remember, for the 22 budget, we took out 3 mills and put it in general to help us, because we had taken some, and a few years before that, we'd taken 6 from general and put it in bond and interest. So it's kind of a juggling act. We get Harvey County reimbursements, which is the airport project split with the county. Special assessments, of course, are the streets, water, sewer infrastructure that's put on a development, and they're paid by the lot owner. We do pay some ourselves. There's some negative amounts you will see in that. It's an incentive that we can do, like Standridge Color Corp. We'll refund them their, it's 5, how many, I don't know how many.
Standard?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it's two or 3 lots that we're doing for them, I can't think. But that goes through 2023, or 2026, and we'll be done with that one. Also, we have some special assessments at the golf course through 2029 that we will pay. And then, of course, any assessments that are paid off early, we get to put in that account as well. This is just a little chart that I put together so you can see how many payments we have every year and what that consists of. Special assessment, sales tax. Of course, sales tax is the Devo fund. Airport pays some, and you can see when they start dropping off. TIF district is on there. And this does not include any loans we have for water sewer. This is just bonds.
And the TIF district, as a reminder, is Meridian Center.
Is Meridian Center, yes. And that
You
we,
can see where it pays off.
and this all did, they were running about $230-some thousand a year for the TIF, but remember we refunded them and got lower interest, so that brought that down. And we did that with several of our bonds in 21 and 20. That really has helped us.
So when they're paid off, then that special assessment for the TIF goes away?
Well, actually, we did not do it as a TIF when we refunded.
We changed it when we did the bond refunding.
Oh.
So we don't have to put all of that amount that a motel will bring in.
Yeah.
We were going 3% they could keep, and the other 5% we kept out for the TIF.
Okay.
Now we're just pulling in the money that comes from, now this is in the good world when we had guests coming in and leaving, you know. The money that comes in from the Holiday Inn goes into the TIF reserve fund that I have. Also, the property tax goes in there, and those two will pay this with a little extra each month.
Okay.
Or each year. So I do have, because we've been putting it over there, and they're always going to be paying their property tax, so that's why I'm not quite as worried about the TIF bond. Right.
Say that, but remember the previous owner got
Yes.
years behind on this. So.
But he did have to pay up, and there is a cushion in there, so we could go 2 or 3 years before we're, have to really worry about it. And it does run out soon after that, so. What I've done here, and this is such a big project that Suzanne helped me with, and you've asked for, of course, a forecast for 10 years out, which it just gets so convoluted after 2 or 3 years, but at least lets you kind of see where we're trending and what's going to happen. I tried to put all the revenues in there, and I do have big copies of this in your notebook so you can spread them out and see it better. And then I have the expenditures, which are the bond payments, the debt service. The second part of that, the bottom of it, is what we have plugged in. And you'll see everything in red is the new ones coming in on the list of CIP projects that Suzanne has given me. And you'll see they'll come in either who's going to pay for them, water, sewer, and general. Anything that says water or sewer that gets paid from the utility fund and transferred into bond and interest. General has to be picked up with either special assessments or property tax. And we don't really do a bond every year. We try to go every other year, and we just carry it. But as you'll see going in the future, like in '23, we have almost $17 million in projects that could happen. I don't think I can carry 17 million for 2 years. We just can't do that. I mean, we do have our reserve funds pay for all this ahead of time, and it works so well for us. We don't have any kind of interest costs on that. But I don't think I can carry 17 million for 2 years. It just would be really tough. So I have skipped a few years here just to give us some breathing room. And then you'll see this sheet is kind of hard to read, but it's big in your packet. This is the projects that Suzanne sees coming down the pike. Some we have in the works, some we have to get done, some we hope we can get done. She has put the total project cost in here. If anything will be paid, if she has any inkling that it might be paid by someone else, she has put that in the next column, and then the city cost, and then whether we have to bond the full amount or not. Even if we do get paid, like special assessments, we're going to get money for that, but it's going to be every year, so we still have to bond it. It doesn't come off the top. And then I've tried to go through, and I've used about a 3.5% interest rate for everything, just to kind of keep it. It's high. That's a little bit higher than it is right now, but you do not know what's going to happen. And I've also included on the side over here is how many meals that takes to pay that debt service payment. And this is going to be annual payments.
And if there is a blank in that column where the red mills is, it means it's not being paid by the mill levy, which is the general fund. It's either private pay or could be grants, might be loans.
Right. And we have split up the ARPA funds that are coming in this year, $1.4 million, and we're going to spend them in 2023. We have put $600,000 in the general fund for fire, EMS, new positions. And this is all based on our recommendation. We can change it. This is just something we're trying to make the dollars work. We also put another $200,000 in there for the Cottonwood development that we're going to help with. So there's $800,000 of that. The rest of it you'll see here. I just put it in here to help us pay some stuff off. This is the hillside paving that has the ARPA funds, $639,181. I took that right off the top, and that'll save us annually $60,000 or $70,000 if we could pay that up front. And I put that in there to help us with that. This is just an idea, a recommendation, or we can talk about it and change it, whatever, but that is where we thought we should put it, is in here. And we can pay for anything the government services, that we consider government services with that money. And there's another sheet. This is through 24, and you can see down here is the library. You can see in 23, that's a total of like 13 million that we're going to have to bond. And 24, it's like 13, another 13. This is, now whether we can get all this done, whether this all comes to fruition, we're just trying to get, we have to have a really good plan for 23. The other 24, 25, 26 is just what we think might happen. One thing we're going to run up against, and I put it in here, is the debt limit. We can only have 30% of our assessed valuation, which includes some motor vehicle valuations as well. And any water and sewer and street intersections and streets in front of schools could be exempted from that debt limit. But a lot of this stuff is street improvements, and they cannot be. So we are going to be hitting that, and we have to watch that and do it all strategically so we do not hit that limit. We have 15 million right now that can be used, and you can see in the next couple of years we'll be over that. But we do have some that fall off every year. And also if your assessed valuation goes up, that helps increase that. So I'm working closely with our financial advisors, and they built me a spreadsheet that I can plug in, and we can see what it's going to be and how much of it non-exempt is coming off. So it's just something we're going to have to really watch.
The other comment I would make about these are, the projects are listed on here based on what I'm seeing right now. There's some that aren't listed that I know might come, but I don't have a good feel for what the cost is going to be. For instance, Donna mentioned Cottonwood Crossing. I don't have anything on here for Cottonwood Crossing because they haven't talked to us about any of it yet, and we don't know where it's going to land. Now, some of these in 2023, okay, maybe they won't hit 2023, maybe they'll go to 2024. But typically, anything that I have on here is something that I think it is going to come to pass. It's just a matter of when, and I'm giving it my best educated guess as to when.
And she goes clear out to 2027 on the next one sheet as well. And you can see.
And there will be more. I mean, I guarantee you there will be more things added from 2025 on. But this is what we have a hunch on.
And I've included in here, the next slide is the debt limit, so you can see where we stand and how they kind of figure it. And our debt authority remaining right now is $15,266,000, and that's the number that we'll be watching very close. The next slide kind of shows you what bonds we have out there, what their payments are, and this is just principal, this is not interest, and when it falls off and how much might be falling off. But that doesn't mean all of that is non-exempt. Some of it is exempt properties that fall off, so it won't help us any with our debt ceiling. Okay, I want to go back to here and show you this. This is the forecast. And what I've done, I've left the mill levies the same for 23, 24. And I've had to go up to stay out of the red. But this is just me trying to get so far out there to show you kind of what is going to be needed if this would happen to come to fruition exactly like we've said. And of course, it won't, but it kind of, it never does. But it kind of gives you an idea of where we're going to sit. So we're going to have to be raising it up a little bit. But part of that, you remember the little bit of a strategy we have for the library building is the golf course bonds fall off in 24, 25, and that 600,000 that we're spending in there, 3 of those, 300,000 that can come over here, which is, 3 mills or something can come over here, and that'll help fill this gap and lower that out of general, so maybe we can, it's just a balancing act all the time. But it kind of gives you an idea. And I didn't know if you all had any questions, and I went pretty fast. There's a lot of information here.
And again, all this is just preliminary stuff, so you guys have a feel for, like I said, we're just doing our best forecasting for what we can in the moment. And once we get to mid-June and we have a better feel for the actual valuation increase, we'll go back and start plugging all that information in, and we'll narrow this down so you guys have, and then we'll have some more meetings so you guys can have an opportunity to really strategize and say, what are we going to do or not do, or when and where and how, and that kind of thing.
Do we have those meetings tentatively scheduled already?
We do not yet, but I'd be happy to look into that, because I think we'll have the middle of June, I think, is when we get.
Usually
from Rick, from the county.
Rick does a real good job of getting them here before the 15th of June, but he has to get them from the state to get them here. So.
And then we'll have, what is it, 40 days maybe till we have to decide?
We have to go over there, but July 20th to him, whether we're going to.
So we need at least 2 meetings.
I would think so. And would you rather do something like this in the day where it's dedicated to that? Like we could do 2 hours or something like, like 2 2-hour meetings, like in the daytime, maybe we could do a long lunch, like 11:30 to 1:30 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what your schedule's like. Your schedule has changed?
He's off all summer.
You're doing nothing, right?
Leisurely.
Yeah.
Except for like the week of July 17th to the 23rd, I'm out of town. Other than that, I'm pretty open.
Okay. Do you prefer, you want me to try the off Tuesdays, like not commission weeks, the off Tuesdays, and
Whatever
do
works
like
for everybody
lunch or
else.
something?
Sure.
Okay, let me get some dates for you, and if you guys want to continue talking, I'll get you some tentative.
And as you're looking over this, I had told you originally I went to 2% increase in valuation. Well, I went to 4 because it just felt like we needed to, and we're due. So
Like,
I did.
control that. We're hopeful.
We're hopeful. So I did, everything is based on a 4% increase, but no increase in mill levies. And that's what you'll see going forward. And I did not want to put too much emphasis on this is what it's going to be, because we just don't know until I get the valuation from the county. And I hate to have you guys have all these numbers in your head and then it's totally wrong.
Well, and it can be just super stressful because we just don't know what it's going to be, so.
And I'll also do more of a mid-year type, this is how much money we received so far this year, to kind of let us know where we stand in '22 as well. But it's hard to do it when just 3 or 4 months that went past, you know? We do this so early. Did you have a question, Rick? Rich?
Have you given us this in the past, showing what mill has, what bonds have fallen off? Because I see we're adding, but we're not really calling out what ones are falling off.
Yes, I give this to you every year.
But have you reflected it a different way?
Reflected it a different way.
I'm not understanding, I'm sorry.
So at the bottom of the large sheet, so you show us general's potentially going up 294, 732, bond maintenance payments and everything. Have you shown us what's falling off? So looking at it this way, I see nothing but increases, but I know internally that there's things.
If you look at the line that says bond and interest payments, the very top one, above the bottom portion is the expenditures. And you see it going down. It starts with 5,241,000 in '22. That goes down. That is the current, you can see it falling off each year. It goes down, 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 down. That's the current fall off.
But do you have this that shows what it actually is?
I do not.
Well, we know that the golf course is ending.
Do you
What
mean
other
by-
things
List
are
of
in it?
projects
Yeah.
that are falling up? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that we.
Yeah, because some of these bond issues, it wasn't just Sand Creek Station, it was like 12 street projects as well. So that's why, but we can get you.
And I
Yeah.
don't need to have those down to the
Sure.
granular detail,
Sure.
but it's something that we can help
Right.
look at ourselves or communicate to
Yeah,
the community.
absolutely.
You know, yeah, you see this coming online, but these are what's falling off.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, well, you can kind of see that on the one sheet here, the outstanding general obligation. And you can see, these are the different bond issues we have going right now. There's one, the 2004B has 3 more $40,000 payments. It'll fall off in '24.
That's the one I was looking at.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I thought you were
I
talking.
knew
thought
you'd
asked
given
what
to it as
specific
an
I do
projects.
too. I thought
Yeah.
you wanted the projects listed.
I'm sorry, I
No.
misunderstood.
Oh, yay.
Yay. Take the win.
Yes. And you
Yeah.
can kind of see what those are and how they go up and down or
Yep.
stay the same or
That's,
whatever.
I knew we had it before. I just
Yeah, yeah.
didn't find it
That's
in the
it. Sorry,
file.
wasn't understanding it for a second. So is there any other questions on this particular topic? Is there anything else I can put together for you to understand it any better? Okay. I think we'll get ready to head on to, I see Mr. Tui has arrived. He's early, so thank goodness, because we're running early, so it'll work just perfectly. Yes.
Well, good morning, Mayor, City Council, and city staff. Hope everyone's dried out. I had the distinct pleasure last night of cleaning up a basement that the sub pump stopped working, so fortunately caught it early enough to where it wasn't a total loss. So the shop vac has been highly utilized last night. Also, to add more unfortunate news, the front 9 did flood. Hopefully it starts going down. We've rescheduled 2 events. So, you know, the good news is, looks like we'll just lose a little bit of daily fee play and we'll recover outing business, but it is May in Kansas. I appreciate the time this morning. I hope everyone's been doing very well, and certainly wish everyone a very safe and happy Memorial Day weekend, and certainly keep in mind, coming from a military family, what Memorial Day weekend is certainly all about. So without any further ado, I respectfully present you the proposed 2023 budget, covering with the revenues and then the expense lines. Just real quick, golf is in a good position right now. COVID certainly has made an incredible impact on the demand and utilization at golf courses. We're in a seller's market. And, really the question that operators in the golf space are asking themselves is, how long is this going to last? And, golf in our world is certainly, it's a cyclical process, and we go through our stints of prosperity, and then we certainly have see our pitfalls in utilization in golf. But, the questions that keeps me up at night is what can we do in the strategies on what we can do at Sand Creek Station to keep the momentum going? And, we've built a little bit of that into the plan, and first and foremost, it's about the experience. We want to continue to provide the best experience that we possibly can for our guests. Some of that is, intangible items and very pleased to announce, and certainly with your support, we will be receiving a new cart fleet with state-of-the-art GPS come, hopefully, late July or early August. I was keeping my fingers crossed we could get them in before the state amateur, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But, with that said, and James with new equipment and, other items that we're working with Donna and Kelly on, thinking in the food space, we've just recently purchased a Turbo Chef. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's a pretty cool little unit that, gives you the ability to heat up and offer, more items on the menu that will certainly make our experience better at the golf course. But, the high side on that is I think, with the new fleet, with new equipment, with, having still a great staff, we're going to be able to leverage our fees a little bit. We do plan to provide you all with a proposed new rate structure, goes into effect approximately July 1. We think, the fee increase is going to be a very palatable fee. We certainly think with what we provide at the golf course, we don't really see there being a great deal of pushback. And, what makes it also, I think, an easy decision is, again, going back to what I said with, mainly the new cart fleet and the new state-of-the-art GPS. The customers are seeing a visible return on a fee increase. But so, compiling all that together, if you look at the revenues for what was adopted in 2022, at almost just a shade under $1.3 million, we are providing a pretty ambitious goal, north of 1.4 million. We've never provided a revenue target of that level, but hey, let's rise to the occasion, challenge ourselves, and see what we can do at Sand Creek Station. So, a couple things that are really going to contributing factors, as I'd mentioned, the rate increase, but also with our outings. We're seeing more support in our outing space in the concessions. A case study alone, Holly Frontier, which is one of our biggest clients, last year purchased nearly $50,000 in Pro Shop merchandise just with one purchase. This year alone, Young Life purchased $30,000. Central Christian Academy down in Wichita is going to purchase products. So it's upsell, and it's easy upsell. We're seeing a viable return, and it's done in a very efficient manner. So we're very pleased, to see that our outings want to continue to support what we can do. And that also comes back to, salesmanship on our behalf. So while it is an ambitious target, we do feel that it is something that we think we can achieve for next year, staying north of $1.4 million. We did generate almost $1.5 million in 2021, which was fantastic news. So, looking at the 2022 forecast, just a shade under 1.3, I think that is, as long as we don't flood, we think that we can, deliver that revenue goal, which in my eyes is that's the number one priority. You can make your revenue goal in most cases. You can typically make your net income goal. So, That's the good side on the revenue piece. You know, and the bad news, and I'm sure that you all have already been discussing this, is, you know, the inflation and what we're seeing with labor shortages and what we're seeing with just, you know, variable costs that are just skyrocketing at rates that, you know, we haven't seen in decades. So, you know, we're in that same boat as well. And in 2023, you know, you do realize a pretty major jump in every expense bucket. You know, first and foremost, payroll. You know, we're not in the era anymore of starting kids at $9 an hour. You know, my daughter told me she can go bag groceries at Trader Joe's for $17 an hour, I think she said, is what they're paying. So I want to go bag groceries on the side. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, while we provide, we think a great work environment and certainly an opportunity for our outside services and our part-time and seasonal hourly staff to work at a venue that they can learn more and make them better operators in whatever line of work they choose as their career. We still got to pay them. So, you know, we are seeing the hit. You know, James has had to bump his fees a little bit. We just hired a mechanic that we had to go a little bit north of what we wanted to offer. But I also believe you get what you pay for. I think, you know, paying them a little bit more, I think we're going to be able to retain our team. I don't think we're going to have as the degree of turnover. And I think if you get the right people and pay them the right salary, it's going to pay for itself. So I think they kind of walk hand in hand, you know, on the experience and with the labor piece. You know, on the contractual services side, you know, that simply is it's evident with the operating expenses with chemicals and fertilizers. You know, we're seeing 20 to 25% increases. Don't have to even talk about fuel. We're all aware of that. So, you know, I would rather, you know, stand here today and provide this governing body with an expense forecast that I think, one, is attainable and also is realistic with having, you know, unfortunately, we would not want to come back and say, you know, in November of 2022 this year to say, hey, I think, you know, we probably need to go back to the laboratory and bump our budget up to 2023, what we've seen. So we have factored some of these contingency items in our operating plan. But, you know, I think the one that stands out for me the most, and I like this, it's good news, is the capital outlay that we've projected in 2023. You know, there's cash in the bank. Sand Creek Station has cash in its bank accounts. And, you know, after visiting with Donna and Kelly, you know, we all agreed that, you know, let's reinvest internally. Let's use some of that money for, you know, talk about the Turbo Chef or the enhancements on, you know, we know the bridge is going to need work, and, you know, consider new T signage and other items. You know, maybe it's a little bit on furnitures and fixtures and equipment. And these are good conversations to have. You know, I don't certainly been in those instances before where I've had to come back and say, hey, we need money and are asking for a funding request just so that we can pay our light bill. We're the other way around. I mean, we're in a position right now where we can reinvest in the golf course and continue to build on the momentum. So I'm really excited to have those kind of healthy conversations. And I'm excited also to plug in, you know, a pretty robust number on the capital space in the capital outlay. So, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, we feel that the golf course in itself, with its reputation, with the experience, you know, we really do think we're going to survive this. And we think we're hands down going to keep the momentum going for many years to come. And certainly this isn't the song and dance. It's for what everyone's done in this room to give us the support. And you guys are hands down a successful case study in our portfolio. So I know it was fairly generalized. I stand for any questions. I've got just a few bullet points to share with you. If we can certainly go back to the numbers, but you know, on the growth strategies, and I did want to keep it very high level, but here's some of the thoughts that we have, and we've already discussed some of this with the improved wallet share in concession sales. The small proposed rate increase, we'll have that to you very shortly so you can review at a later time. Going to, you know, percent-wise, it's anywhere between 5 and 8%, you know, across the board on pretty much every rate fee. Optimizing the T-sheet. You know, we've heard that term before with dynamic pricing, and most people think dynamic pricing means you're discounting, and that's not always the case. You know, the airline industries and the whole hotel industries use dynamic pricing platforms as the exact opposite. It's based on utilization. You know, when you get down to where there's 2 or 3 hotel rooms left, they start jacking their fees up. And golf courses do that as well. So we think that we have the ability, we have the technology already in place to do this. And, time is one of the top commodities that a golfer wants. At 8 o'clock tee time on Saturday morning in May, there is a customer that's willing to pay more than what you advertise on rack. There is, because they need that 8 o'clock time. They have to be done by 12:30. So it may not be the success story, but every dollar does count. And so we certainly want to become more active, and we want to become more aggressive in optimizing the lifeblood of our business, which is the tee sheet. So we will plan on using the dynamic pricing platform even this year, but definitely using it more in 2023. We certainly want to continue to support our player development programs. The First Tee, the PGA Junior League, and our Twilight Leagues have been very successful. We've built a lot of active, vibrant golfers and citizens that come to the golf course, and it's a very social environment now. It gives them cause, it gives them purpose to choose Sand Creek Station than one of our competition. And then, I've already mentioned it before, is upsell. I do customer service classes through a number of our Kemper properties, travel from time to time and go deliver our true service programs. And I'm a firm believer that upselling is a huge service, as long as it's done in the right manner. Customers want to know the services that you can provide. I've read books on the Disneyland and Disney World theories, and of course, they're the experts at it. You walk out and you've sold your house because you can't pay for the trip, but you have a smile on your face and your family does. So I like stealing ideas, and certainly I plan on stealing some of their ideas just in some of our training with our team. And then, one that I think we've had great success for is, continuing to hunt for the big events in our industry. Certainly very pleased to make a formal announcement once we get to the next slide, but push online bookings both in daily fee and outing business. I just want to touch real fast on the online booking engine. I don't know of any other competitor that offers online tournament registrations for their customers in Sand Creek Station. And I think, when you got a tournament director that's limited on time, and you can tell them, look, we're going to build you a link. You give it to your customers. They can go in. They make their payments online. At the end of the day, it's turnkey. We reconcile. We tell you how much money you made on your end, how much money we make on my end, our end, and it's seamless. Nobody else offers it, and the technology is there. So we want to use that, and it's been very successful, and I know that is one of the driving forces that keeps our outing business coming back. And then the last slide, please. I just want to announce, I'm very pleased to announce, we're already aware of the Central Links, of course, the Railer, which is one of the marquee championships that we started here at Sand Creek Station back in 2008. And pleased to announce that in July, Sand Creek Station will host the Men's State Amateur. That is the premier amateur event in the entire state of Kansas. That'll bring Division I golfers from all four corners of our region. You'll see bags from Nebraska, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Colorado, and of course, the local colleges as well. Got a great relationship with with Keisha. We just finished up hosting 4A. Pleased to announce we just extended our agreement with Keisha. We will do the boys 6A next year. We'll host 5A in 2024, and we'll host 4A back in 2025. And then I did want to save the last one on the left for last. Very pleased to announce that after a very competitive bid, I'm sure you all are aware of this, we did land the 2023 and 2025 men's Division I national championships. So, these are all, in my opinion, win-win, not only for the golf course, but also our community. It's going to bring hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of visitors to our Newton community that will hopefully spend a lot of money through our local businesses and support our golf course. So, in conclusion, did put a lot of work into the financial plan. Stand for questions. We certainly, again, wanted to provide you with a plan that we do think that we can achieve.
And for reference on your CIP list, you may have seen we did have a couple of things on the CIP for Sand Creek Station in a few outer years as well. We've had some discussions about improvements, not just to the physical piece of the property, like Chris mentioned, the bridge, but like the patio out back. We've talked about shade structures and could we utilize that in the off season in different ways, and some improvements we might be able to make there. So you'll see some of that kind of detailed out in the future years of your big CIP list too. So.
You had talked in the past about a better restaurant out there or something improved. Is that still in the plans or thoughts, or not this next year?
No, I mean, just as an example, hands down, yes. And that's why I would mention the Turbo Chef. It sounds kind of, simple and elementary, but, this unit, one, it's not cheap. Secondly, what its ability to, it's efficient. Doesn't require a great deal of training, which I like. When you enhance the food space, there's a lot of moving parts that I think you have to focus on. It's not only the environment and the venue, it's also with staff and training and, them having the skill sets to offer a better product. But with something like a Turbo Chef, it pretty much just does it itself. But to answer your question, in all fairness, we did kick around the idea of giving the grill a new look. We thought about pulling up the tile and resurfacing it with stained concrete, and ultimately came to the conclusion that, visiting with Donna and Kelly, I'm not sure I wanted to spend that money. And then if a few years down the road, if we're talking about bigger projects, it's almost like I feel like it would, not necessarily a waste, but I would have much rather taken that money and used it in other spaces. Maybe we do a small fix. Maybe we spend a couple $1,000s and not spend what the original estimate was going to cost. Because then if, once the golf course's debt is retired, we've had discussion, we do start focusing on bigger projects. But hands down, Mayor, I do think that especially in the next couple of years with more added rooftops, for the houses that traverse the facility, I think that it's there. It's
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's a unique opportunity for that little area to have a restaurant on that end of town.
No question.
Yeah. Thanks.
No question.
We don't live too far from there. We'd love to come over and eat every once in a while.
Well, we would love to have you.
Can you, kudos on the reduction on the commodities and supplies. Is that sustainable? Where'd that come from?
So that actually is a little skewed. That the expense numbers, the chess pieces kind of get moved around a little bit as far as how we realized it. The commodities and supplies in 2023, it's just all that's realized in there is cost of goods. That's what our anticipated cost of goods are. If you combine them both, if you take the contractual services and the commodities and supplies, and you combine them together, we actually have about a 10% increase. I think if you do the quick, maybe not even that much. It's actually almost relatively flat. And it's a great question. Some of it is Peter robs Paul in that space. With new equipment means lesser repairs. So we assume that we're not going to spend as much money on, the cart services and the maintenance equipment, which can get, yeah, Kelly's keeping her fingers crossed. But that in itself right there will save us tens of thousands of dollars. Good news is, and Mayor mentioned about timing, couldn't be a better time to get new equipment right now, because now with that, those savings, if you want to call it delta, that money is probably going to get lost in our variable costs that we're seeing back to fuel and back to chemicals and fertilizers. So it's almost a wash.
It was an assumption, but I figured I'd better ask the actual.
Very fair question.
And also, Kemper has their own way of doing books because they're more commercial. And so we have to fit it into our governmental. So sometimes I stick it maybe where he doesn't plan it, but it fits in where we put things and how we do things. So it's just.
He's very patient with us, 'cause I'm
Yeah.
sure.
So we work it out.
And we do work it out. We absolutely work it out, no doubt. Any other thoughts or questions?
So are the fish biting on number 2 right now?
2 and 9 and 1 and even the driving range.
So no golf, no driving range today. That was my plans this afternoon.
But the Turbo Chef is up.
The Turbo Chef is coming eventually.
Oh, it's not up yet. No,
it's not up yet.
I can't even go there for lunch.
Is that like what they nuke or cook your stuff at like Panera and?
Yeah, it's exactly
Starbucks
what
and
it
stuff?
is.
Yeah.
That's for Clint's turbo appetite.
That's it. Yeah.
They're pretty cool. I mean, they really are. It's great because you can just basically prep it. It's in there. Somebody walks in a minute and a half. I mean, they've got a great product. So, We actually, when we talked about, Mayor, we talked about enhancing the food space, and we actually reached out to our national food and beverage manager, John DeMiglia, who's a friend of mine, and said, hey, really just need to pick your brain. Here's kind of the landscape, and this is what we do. And he said, well, if it were me, they're not cheap, I would get a Turbo Chef. And we're excited.
Cool.
Thank you all very much. I really do. Certainly been a great partnership, and looking forward to this year and next year and many more to come.
Good work.
Thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Stay dry.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, we'll wrap it up here. This is a sheet I usually hand out to you each year, so you can kind of see, at this point in time, this is what things are looking like through our 5 tax-supported funds. We've stayed at 62 point, and the points changed every little bit just because of the valuation, but it was 62.535 for the last 4 years. This is how they've kind of been divvied up with a little bit of the 3 mills going back and forth between the bonded interest and general. I think the library is planning on staying in there with their mills, and they're just hoping for a good valuation increase.
And remember, by law, they cannot levy their own funds. We levy on their behalf. So their mills are included in our mill levy.
Right. Special liability is what we pay for our general liability out of. And you'll see I'm getting a balance in there higher than we need, but I would like to continue keeping at least $25,000 in a reserve fund in there, because a lot of our police and fire and stuff liability, that deduction is $25,000. So I want to have something in case we ever need it and it just doesn't come back and bite us. So that's why that has a little bit bigger of a balance than we usually do. I've started kind of saving money in there. Airport is doing well. It's got the same mills it had. And then we're to the general fund, which doesn't look good, but we'll wait for the final answer before we work on that more. And I did put in here at the very bottom of the sheet, it is a 4% estimated. So you can remember that's where I've got it right now. This is another sheet that we try to do for you so we can show you what's coming, what's kind of went on in the past. Of course, 20 and 21 are actuals. And you can see we lost some money in 20, but we did well in 21. 22 is what we have as the adopted budget. And as you know, we don't do a lot of contingencies in the general fund like we used to. So it might be really close to what it is. We have a few in there, but this is a tax-supported fund, we can't just put a bunch in there and have the money come in and sit on it. We have to be more cognizant of what we're doing to our taxpayers. So we've really squeezed out the contingencies. On the little chart here on the right, it shows you what I've done here. It's the 4% valuation increase. It came up to about 5,000 more per mill. And then what if, this is just a little bit of teaser here, what if we got a 6% valuation? What would that look like? The mill would increase to 7,700. That would be the increased amount. So you can kind of see we'd get another 117,000 or something in there, which would help somewhat. And then here's the general fund, the forecasting. This is only 5 years out. And you can see we're trending down, but this is just the general fund. But anytime you have stagnant increases in expenses and a relatively small increase in the income, this is how it's going to go, because you don't have any human intervention over here in 25, 26 yet. But it does give you a little trend to see where you're going. And then the next sheet is the citywide property tax supported funds. And you can see where they go and how they're trending. And it shows at the bottom here the in the past what we've had for our mills, and I've left it the same throughout the future. And if you recall, this forecasting model was set up for me with the help of a professor from Wichita State University. And he has all the little formulas in there, and I just look at what might happen in the CPI and stuff going forward. So I did the same thing for all three of the larger utilities. And you can kind of see in the wastewater, we have pulled out the storm sewer section and made it its own department, so we can track that better for our permit. And so that's why you'll see another section down here than what we used to have. And wastewater and water and sanitation all have more contingencies built in, just in case something would happen, we wouldn't have to come back and redo the budget all the time. So you're going to see hefty decreases in their, or I should say hefty increases in their expenses that might not happen. But we try to kind of figure it in there, an increase in what we think might happen then. But we also have in the wastewater the operating balance, and then we have our MERS and our capital improvement programs. And then each one also has a bond and interest fund, which is really for our loans. And that's what that money, we have to have a certain amount in reserve, 1.25% in reserve for our loans. Sanitation is next. And it has a MER in it as well. And it has no loans or bonds or anything like that. We were able to start that MER several years ago, and it really has helped replace our trucks and stuff like that. We don't have to have anything bonded for them. Next is the water. And it does include the new loan payment that we're going to have, which is close to $300,000 annually for our ground storage water tank. We'll start paying that in 2023. And you know, sometime we're going to have to look at increases in our utilities, but we really don't want to talk about that until we get our plant upgrade fee totally paid off, and so we can see where we're at, and we can give maybe the people some relief from that. So we're trying to stay with what we've got. And they also have a MER and a capital improvement program, and then they have a smaller bonded interest. They do not have as many loans as sewer does. And then Sand Creek Station and the Meridian Center, and both of these are looking pretty good. Like Chris said, this is a great time for the golf course.
I was just thinking as he was talking, though, just our continued need for hotels.
I know,
Yeah.
bringing all those people in, and where are they going to be?
Yeah. And I hope that we don't lose stuff because of that.
We are doing our best to hustle. on
I
the
know,
outside.
I know you all are, and I was just like,
I know, it's on my mind constantly.
my mind was like, where can a hotel go close to that? That's what
I was thinking they need to send this information to them as well. Look, we got all these people coming in the next few years. We need you.
Right.
So this is a lot of information to take in. A lot of it's a higher level. I did include in your packet a lot of these papers in a bigger way so you can see them easier. I have a chart of the last 10 years worth of our employees, so you can see how that has went. And we have not increased a lot. And I did do a little single shot of, I know, Clint, you've asked about the admin.
I did see that. Yes, thank
So
you.
that's in
Yep.
there, so you can see that.
Yeah, that helped.
So and I'm always available to find anything if you guys have a question, if you need any information. Just let me know.
And I could, to Mayor's question the other day, remember where it's, oh, sorry. If I could turn pages, I'd be in business here. on that admin sheet, you see where it says sales tax. Remember, the sales tax, we get a distribution and it comes in, it goes to the admin budget, and then half of it gets transferred back out to the Economic Development Fund. And so we have, because of state laws, if we exceed either revenue or expenses, we have to amend our budget. So we tried to go up thinking, knowing that sales tax has been increasing slowly. Does that make sense? So that's why it looks like it's more. There's actually a corresponding transfer in to go with that.
Okay.
But this is just the expense side.
And if something would happen and we do not get that much in sales tax,
It's okay.
it will not be spent.
We just can't accept it if we don't budget for it though, so.
We had we had budgeted, the state during COVID had told us our highway funds that we get in the amount of about 500,000 every year was going way down. And it did, the first year it got 400,000, and the next year we had budgeted 400,000, but they did an extra special tranche of money they sent out, and we got another 100,000. But I could not bring that over to the general fund because I had not budgeted in that little fund to send it over because they told me it wasn't going to be that much. So we're going to be spending that coming in the future. That'll come over extra and help the general fund. So it'll get over there eventually, but I just couldn't bring it over that year.
How hard would it be to put together a spreadsheet that just shows all of the increases? We've got this one for administrative increases, but you know, we're at a base of X number of mills, and what all is increasing. Like there's several new, with the growth we're getting ready to experience, there's several new employees that are being requested.
And I did this last time. It was the general fund, and it showed all the increases we were having. Did you get a copy?
Is that just the general fund?
It's just the general fund.
Okay.
You want it for every fund?
I don't think we had anybody new in any of the others, except we had half of a person for airport for the.
Yeah.
That was in last time's stuff?
Yeah.
I emailed it to you,
But
I
I think
thought.
in enterprise fund,
Okay.
I think that's the only one.
Last week sometime?
Maybe the week before.
Okay, I'm a little behind on my
That's fine. Let
emails
me
since
send
I've
this
been
to you, though, so you'll have it.
gone. Okay.
I believe, other than airport, I don't think we've added any positions in any of the other funds that aren't general. In the airport, remember, we added that fourth line attendant.
Okay, perfect.
But everything else, I think, is in the general fund, if I'm not mistaken. I know Meridian Center is expecting to need to add some staff, but they're going to onboard those people, mostly be like servers and stuff for Wild Prairie, and they will onboard those folks. And they don't really fall under us. We go through a temp agency for them most of the time.
Okay.
And the temp agency pays them. You know what I mean? Like the revenue comes in, revenue goes out, so. While you guys are ciphering on that, would you check your schedules for me, please, for the 2 additional meetings? And let's schedule 2, and then for some reason we only need 1. No harm, no foul. Donna, could you tell me, what was the date again of that we have to be done? Because I think we're cutting it close on this second meeting, maybe.
Well, July 20th is when we have to have it to Rick at the very end.
Yeah, so if we do the off weeks, the second of the commission for the second meeting would be July 19th. That might be cutting it too close, so
Yeah.
that's why I ask.
Yeah. If we could do one in June, when we have all the information back for our evaluation and stuff, that would help us. And we could come up with some ideas and stuff, and then maybe second week of July or something, come up with the finalized plan
21st.
or something like that.
First and the 5th. June 20th.
If we did June, we could do the 21st, which would be the off Tuesday over, like I said, maybe extended lunch, like 11:30 to 1 or something like that. That would be June 21st. You think we'll have it by then? I guess if we don't, we can always reschedule.
Oh, no, we'll have it by then.
Yeah, okay.
We'll have it.
That would work for me.
Usually between the 10th and the 15th of June, Rick gets me that information.
Okay, so
I
if
just
we
have
said
to-
June
Works for me.
21st, is everybody, so if we did like 11:30 to 1, I'll send you guys a calendar appointment, I'll just confirm it. And then the next one then would be July 5th. And I'm sorry, Mayor, I know you said you were going to be gone, and I couldn't remember if that was the week.
Oh, no, that's not. I'm good on that too.
Okay.
I don't know, I'll try to be back. I wasn't planning on being here that day.
Oh, okay.
The
But we'll
21st?
see. No, the 5th.
21st from
July 5th.
11?
Yeah, June 21st, 11:30 to 1, and then July 5th, 11:30 to 1 tentatively. I'll send you guys a calendar appointment, but just, I'm getting ahead and on, so it looks like everybody's pretty
works for me.
We
available.
have a big
And what was the July one again?
The
Fifth.
5th.
On the
July 5th.
21st, we do it at
My ears will still be ringing from the noisy fireworks.
Yes, well, maybe,
I-
yeah, I don't know.
Question for you real
That's my
quick. We had, actually, we just realized we've got a real big bid opening on the 21st at 11:30 a.m. and she's going to have to be part of that. Could we start at 12 instead?
I've got a 1 o'clock that day.
Okay,
I'll start early. I'll come when I get done.
okay. Well, we can
I
discuss.
could
it.
also do a morning or something. I don't know. We don't have.
I
to
was just
over
picking a
lunch.
time. Yeah, I mean, would you prefer
Well,
mornings?
You think an hour and a half is enough time?
Well, if we're
I
going to
don't
have
know
two
that it
separate
is.
meetings.
Yeah.
What
I don't know that even two separate, I mean, I want to make sure, I would rather plan for longer and end early than
Yeah, me too.
plan short and run out of time and feel like we're squeezing to get stuff done. We've got I think a lot to talk about this year.
You guys
I
tell me
don't
what you want to
mind
do.
what we have been doing.
This works for me too, the 8
Okay.
to noon, but
Would you like to do those same days then, but do
Yeah.
like, do 8 to noon? And that way you could just step out at the end. Would that be possible for
that works for me.
everybody?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll do 8 to noon instead?
Yeah.
And like I said, if we get done early, we get done early.
But you still have to bring donuts or something.
We'll have some snacks for you. You guys know I like to eat, so.
And July 5th in the
I
same.
love to eat.
Yeah, 8 to
8 to
noon.
noon.
Like I said, I'll send you guys a calendar appointment if that works for everybody.
Okay.
June 21st and July 5th.
And if we end early, we end early, but
Yeah, no, that's great, yeah. I mean, July 5th
On
is,
their phone.
is the day after 4th of
You
July,
guys
though.
all
I
gonna
mean,
be
is it-
here on July 5th?
sometimes I wish I had something like that, but then I forget it if I go
I
somewhere.
wasn't planning on it, but I'll have to
Well, and see, I just
cut
dismiss and don't.
my
pay
vacation
attention
short and
to
come
that.
home.
We do it on
I'll look at that
You on
later.
vacation
Yeah.
then?
So,
Okay, sorry, one more change here.
Yeah.
I just realized July that's the day after 4th of July, and you guys may have plans or stay up late with the fireworks. So could we do the 6th instead? It's a Wednesday. I'm sorry for so many changes.
6 works.
Yeah, that works for
Could we
me
do
too.
the 6th
yeah,
instead?
that's fine.
That way,
Are you
if
on
somebody is
vacation then,
traveling.
Donna?
That's fine. I can make it happen. I think I was traveling home on the 5th or 6th. But I can make it,
Well, double check when you're coming back and let me know if we have
yeah,
to.
that's fine.
I don't want to
We
mess
could do
up
the
your
7th.
vacation.
We'd have a pre-agenda meeting on the 7th anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
So
you
we
want to do
could
that?
do
Let's do that.
pre-agenda, then roll right after that on the 7th.
But Donna will for sure be gone by then. Or you said you're coming back on the
I'm
6th.
home,
or 7th.
I'm coming home.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I thought
that
you were
way we
leaving on
won't
the
pressure you.
5th or 6th. Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, the
start at
7th would be
7:30.
awesome.
I mean, I'm pretty wide open.
I'll
I
make that work.
kind of get used to this teacher schedule,
So
so.
the 7th then,
The 7th.
Yeah,
8 to
sure.
12?
Yep. And then, because remember, you'll have agenda review that morning anyway, so we'll just do that first and we'll
That's
just
perfect.
roll through.
And still start agenda review though at 7:30.
Yes, please. And again, I'll send this to you guys.
We'll have good food. We're here at 7:30.
So if we're starting agenda review at 7:30,
Is there a mouth?
do we have to notice up that this is a public meeting? We probably need to have it officially start at 8:30, or are we going to truncate the agenda review so that we can start this at 8? So she's going to have to notice it up.
Right, well, either. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
agenda review
because
is
it's
always an
both
open
open.
meeting.
Okay.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Right, it is.
It's always an open meeting.
Just be a slash budget session.
Or we'll post it
Accordingly.
probably both ways, just so that it's recovered, separate.
Don't want to get in trouble.
Yep. Well, I know we are finished a little earlier, however, I think,
I need you to hold for just.
yeah, could we hold for just a moment if you want to take a break or something?
Or is that
That's
okay?
it.
No,
Well, yeah.
So Chris and I are having a conversation right at the moment. He's trying to run through a resolution. The special event permit for the Sand Creek, or not Sand Creek, but Sand Creek's on. For
Set-
Summer Bash, selling it, but for
Downtown Summer Bash.
There's too many summers in this. The state is requiring them to have a resolution for where they're gonna sell the alcohol.
Since
and-
it's on a public street.
Since it's on a public street. Please help me remember, did we not, some of you would have been on here, do a resolution or an ordinance that allowed on public streets?
On public property, I know we did. We had to on public property because of Meridian Center a long time ago, and I thought we pulled in.
That one just called out Meridian and Workington. We did
Workington,
call
I know,
those
was
two
called
but
out.
I thought we had done something else for public streets too, but I don't know.
Yeah, I thought so.
When Chris Young
Wasn't
did
it
his, we did
2050?
his
I thought
for that.
maybe
I think we did just that.
What we had to do for that.
You could just give us a resolution number.
At
we can go
Broadway
ahead
and
move
Main?
it or do it.
Well, that's,
Chris Young, maybe?
I need to,
it seemed like that
because
was.
it's a public meeting, you would have to actually, and it's a work session, you could bring it up to do as a agenda item of business, so.
Didn't Chris Young bring that up when he was at
did.
Broadway and Main?
But it
20
was just for those specific places.
Okay.
That we did that, and so, but then I thought at one point we had done for the city. I thought it was before I was here, but. Yeah, I thought we had done for city streets anyway, so we didn't have.
I'm here until noon, so.
I don't ever remember doing that.
Okay, so are you okay? If I, just to hang out for a little bit while
Yeah.
Chris
Yeah,
and I
for
figure
sure.
out everything? Chris is working it.
Can we just take a small break, though?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
take a break.
Maybe not mine.
Now you
For real?
Spelled my name wrong.
Did I really?
It's E-I.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Let me edit.
I don't
My
care, I just don't know if
Yeah,
you need
no.
to have it.
We'll fix it.
Okay.
EI, that's a typo. My bad.
Okay, well,
Old MacDonald had a farm,
EI,
E-I-E.
EIO. Got it. Well, not-
I was writing something the other day and I don't remember what it was and your name was on it and I had to think for a minute. K-R-E-I-E.
that's okay, because we'll add the number to.
Okay, well, are we ready to begin? Well, first item of business, welcome back. We need a motion to take up a new item of business.
I so move.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. All right, and our second item of business, or the item that we are discussing, is a resolution approving a special event and temporarily exempting certain portions of the city of Newton, Kansas from the prohibitions on the drinking or consumption of alcoholic liquor within the corporate limits of the city of Newton, Kansas. Anything you need to discuss or add?
Yeah, and I'll just add that this is a requirement of the state to issue a permit. They want a local resolution, and just giving the timing as to when the event is and when those things need to be submitted to the state. Since we had this group here together, I okayed just drafting this quickly, adding it as an agenda item, as a piece of business, and it's a resolution that basically says that the city is okay with it. This essentially memorializes an earlier meeting where you already approved the event. This just puts it in resolution form. It goes to the state. The state knows that the city signed off on it, and then they can consider issuing the state permit.
All right, resolution number?
Okay, it would be Resolution G-1283.
Okay, we'll need a motion and a second for that.
I'll move that we approve Resolution G1283.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
And I abstain.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Our meeting is adjourned.
Wow.